What does it mean when we say we are preparing students for their future? Here at the Clark County School District, it means providing every student with the tools to dream big and achieve even bigger. So, welcome to Career and Technical Education, where we make possibilities become realities. Come on, let me show you. CTE isn't just a program, it's a journey. Across Clark County, students are exploring careers in engineering, healthcare, the arts, and so much more. The CTE framework features 6 distinct clusters, each offering unique pathways toward a shared objective, student success. Within these clusters, students can explore more than 60 diverse programs of study. With such a wide range of options, CTE truly has something to offer every student. Like prepping our future doctors, to giving students hands-on learning with cutting-edge technology, to the trades. Our programs are vast with a range of skills students will gain from them.
CTE is about showing students that their future starts here. It's not just skills. They're learning to lead, innovate, and thrive.
Through hands-on learning and real-world experiences, our students graduate ready for what's next, whether it's college, a career, or both. 91% of CTE students say their programs better prepared them for their future.
With internships, certification, and college credit, CTE students gain more than knowledge. They gain a head start.
My CTE classes have showed me that I can make a difference in healthcare, and now I'm on my way to become a physical therapist.
My CTE class taught me skills that I never thought I would use, but now that I'm here, I might use them in the near future.
My CTE classes showed me that I could make a difference in medicine, and now I'm on my way to medical school.
CTE is more than education. It's inspiration, it's opportunity, and it's happening right here in Clark County. Explore the possibilities. Visit cteincccsd.org today and discover how CTE can shape your future. Because at CCSD, we're not just preparing students for tomorrow, we're preparing them to lead.
One of the schools that performed at this year's State of the Schools address was Gilbert Academy of Creative Arts. We had the chance to visit this North Las Vegas elementary school, and we met some very talented students and staff.
Let's go from the top.
Today we worked with Chromatics, which was our instrument group, and some of our members of Collage, which is our choir, and they were creating movements to go along with an instrument piece that Chromatics has been practicing.
One of my dream jobs is to be a singer or a songwriter, and maybe even actor. I like when the audience kind of sees me doing it, especially when my mom's in there, because she's always proud of me and stuff.
Okay, third grade. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna start on page 3 with Agent Holly and Agent Mikkel. Can you guys go get set up right over there? And then we'll continue on to the computer nerds.
And I want to be an actor when I grow up, so I moved to this school so I can act and show people my talent and just let people know what I want to do when I am older. You get different prompts and you have to express different emotions at different times in the show. It's really hard to memorize your script without a script paper to see and know your rules.
As I was growing up, the arts were always a big part of my life. I really just want to be able to influence students to understand how art is really a part of our everyday lives and how that can really infiltrate our academics, and as we integrate them, how much of a deeper understanding our students can have for the curriculum itself.
You can move through the space. I want you to
The metallic ones get ready to play your improvisation. And then you guys do something with your prop and see how many different ways you can move it. Elementary kids learn how to communicate confidently when they participate in the arts. They learn how to collaborate and work together as part of an ensemble when they play or sing or act together.
And how is that going to help them when they're adults?
Every person at some point will have to stand up in front of a group of people and lead a meeting or give a speech. And this is a great way for kids to learn how to do that, even if they're nervous, to learn how to be confident when they perform. We believe that every child is capable of creating beautiful music and movement, and it doesn't matter what the level of talent is, they're going to grow from where they are.
Bravo! Phenomenal job. Thank you to Gilbert Academy for inviting us to learn more about your wonderful school.
What does it mean when we say we are preparing students for their future? Here at the Clark County School District, it means providing every student with the tools to dream big and achieve even bigger. So, welcome to Career and Technical Education, where we make possibilities become realities. Come on, let me show you. CTE isn't just a program, it's a journey. Across Clark County, students are exploring careers in engineering, healthcare, the arts, and so much more. The CTE framework features 6 distinct clusters, each offering unique pathways toward a shared objective: student success. Within these clusters, students can explore more than 60 diverse programs of study. With such a wide range of options, CTE truly has something to offer every student. Like prepping our future doctors, to giving students hands-on learning with cutting-edge technology, to the trades. Our programs are vast with a range of skills students will gain from them.
CTE is about showing students that their future starts here. It's not just skills. They're learning to lead, innovate, and thrive.
Through hands-on learning and real-world experiences, our students graduate ready for what's next, whether it's college, a career, or both. 91% of CTE students say their programs better prepared them for their future.
With internships, certification, and college credit, CTE students gain more than knowledge. They gain a head start.
My CTE classes have showed me that I can make a difference in healthcare, and now I'm on my way to become a physical therapist.
My CTE class taught me skills that I never thought I would use, but now that I'm here, I might use them in the near future.
My CTE classes showed me that I could make a difference in medicine, and now I'm on my way to medical school.
CTE is more than education. It's inspiration, it's opportunity, and it's happening right here in Clark County. Explore the possibilities. Visit cteinccSD.org today and discover how CTE can shape your future. Because at CCSD, we're not just preparing students for tomorrow, we're preparing them to lead.
One of the schools that performed at this year's State of the Schools address was Gilbert Academy of Creative Arts. We had the chance to visit this North Las Vegas elementary school, and we met some very talented students and staff.
Let's go from the top.
Today we worked with Chromatics, which was our instrument group, and some of our members of Collage, which is our choir, and they were creating movements to go along with an instrument piece that Chromatics has been practicing.
One of my dream jobs is to be a singer or a songwriter, and maybe even actor. I like when the audience kind of sees me doing it, especially when my mom's in there, because she's always proud of me and stuff.
Okay, third grade. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna start on page 3 with Agent Holly and Agent Mikel. Can you guys go get set up right over there? And then we'll continue on to the computer nerds.
And I want to be an actor when I grow up, so I moved to this school so I can act and show people my talent and just let people know what I want to do when I am older. You get different prompts and you have to express different emotions at different times in the show. It's really hard to memorize your script without a script paper to see and know your roles.
As I was growing up, the arts were always a big part of my life. I really just want to be able to influence students to understand how art is really a part of our everyday lives and how that can really infiltrate our academics, and as we integrate them, how much of a deeper understanding our students can have for the curriculum itself.
You can move through the space. I want you to, Metallicans, get ready to play your improvisation, and then you guys do something with your prop and see how many different ways you can move it.
Elementary kids learn how to communicate confidently when they participate in the arts. They learn how to collaborate and work together as part of an ensemble when they play or sing or act together.
And how is that going to help them when they're adults?
Every person at some point will have to stand up in front of a group of people and lead a meeting or give a speech. And this is a great way for kids to learn how to do that, even if they're nervous, to learn how to be confident when they perform. We believe that every child is capable of creating beautiful music and movement, and it doesn't matter what the level of talent is, they're going to grow from where they are.
Bravo! Phenomenal job. Thank you to Gilbert Academy for inviting us to learn more about your wonderful school.
Good evening, and welcome everyone today. My name is Irene Bustamante Adams. I have the privilege of serving as the president of the trustees, and I call this regular board meeting of April 10th, 2025 to order. The time is 5:02. I would like to remind everyone to silence your electronic devices. We acknowledge that the land on which we gather is the territorial homeland of the Nuwu, the Moapa Band of Paiutes, and the Las Vegas Band of Paiutes. Opening item, if I could ask Trustee Zamora to please lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance. The presentation of colors will be led by El Dorado High School ROTC.
Please stand. You may be seated.
Thank you again for everyone that has joined us. I'm just going to give you a lay of the land for today before we adopt the agenda. Just for our audience members, we will be welcoming our new superintendent. That's part of our process. We will be taking a brief recess to do a press conference and then resume with the rest of the items on our agenda. So just FYI, that is what our agenda will look like for today, and we're super excited for this day to come forward. So before I open up item 102, is there anyone who did not get a chance to complete a public speaker card? Okay, thank you. I do want to ask Trustee Satori to make a motion to approve the agenda, but with the caveat that gives me the flexibility to take some items out of order.
Okay, thank you. Madam President, members of the board, I would like to make a motion to adopt the agenda and addendum with flexibility and with the following changes. Reference material has been provided for item 3.01, Superintendent Employment Agreement. Reference material has been provided for item 3.02, legislative update, and reference material has been provided for addendum item 3.05, interim superintendent employment agreement.
Thank you. I have a first. Do I have a second? Oh, Trustee Cavazos.
She got it.
Thank you, Madam President. I would like to second that motion.
Thank you. I have a first and a second. Please cast your votes. That motion passes 7-0. I will move to agenda item 3.01 and then take agenda item 3.05 right after that. So 3.01, has anybody not completed a public comment card? We're not doing consent agenda just yet, but we will. Thank you so much. Ms. Caitlin, can I have you come up here? There's one public comment card that doesn't have a number. I want to make sure we don't miss it. Okay. At this time, I'd like to invite our board legal counsel to come up. So we are going to have a presentation by our legal counsel, our board legal counsel, about item 3.01. Again, is there anyone that has not completed a public comment card on that item? I do have somebody that called in, so I do have that. Okay. Ms. Lisa, if you could help me pronounce your last name and then please proceed.
You're not the first to ask that. Zastro.
Thank you. And to just hold the, pull the mic up a little, there you go. Thank you so much.
You're welcome. All right. First, let me just say, I'm special counsel for the board. You all voted to appoint me about a week ago, maybe a little less. And I think that that was exceptionally wise to obtain outside special counsel with respect to the superintendent agreement for a number of reasons. So I want to commend the board for retaining outside counsel. It's been a pleasure working with you all. Everyone has put in extreme amount of work in the last week. It's also been a pleasure working with our future superintendent, Ms. Ebert. Everyone on this board, including Joan, is exceptionally conscientious about the terms of this agreement, and it's very refreshing. Some can approach agreements like this as they've been drafted in the past, so let's rubber stamp, but that's not what we did. We made conscientious changes, you did, to some of the terms of this agreement. So I just want to, again, reiterate, this was a collaborative effort. It was extremely easy, for lack of a better word. Joan's questions almost always centered around the interest of the district, fiscal responsibility. I can't recall ever receiving a question or an inquiry from her in her own interest. And I just wanted to say that she's not my client, so I can reveal my conversations with her. So this was a collaborative effort. So this contract will look similar in form to some of the past contracts, but there are a few key differences in this contract. And I just want to briefly go over some of the terms for the public here. And of course, this is public record, so the things I'm not going to go over. And of course, if you have any questions, let me know. There were really less than 10 key deal points in this contract that, has 20-something points. The first one, very simple. The board agreed, and Ms. Ebert agreed to a 4-year term. Simple provision. She starts hopefully on the 14th, and her term ends on the 14th of 2029, subject, of course, to extension. Her salary, which is consistent with a school district of this size, some people may not realize in terms of...
Ms. Astro, can you increase the volume? Or lean forward, yes.
You can pull it to you too.
Yes. There you go. Thank you.
To be honest with you, I'm usually much louder, and I'm trying to use my calm voice today, and it's not serving me well. Can you all hear me better? Sorry about that. I'm usually told I'm too loud. So with respect to the salary, Ms. Ebert will receive $385,000 a year, which is commensurate with school districts of this size, territory, scope, budgets, etc. So that is the board agreed to that salary. That's what is in this contract. And again, I'm not going to go over every provision in this contract, just the key points. The contract does contain standard benefits, health insurance plan. The board has agreed to pay the premium for Ms. Ebert, which I think is appropriate. And she has agreed to pay the premiums for her own family, which is a concession on her part. So we thank her for that. Other insurance is standard. believe we know that we have cars for use, but Ms. Ebert will have this standard mileage, technology, et cetera, professional expenses. The leave accrual, that's somewhat standard with the exception of sick leave. I love Ms. Ebert's practical understanding of the difference between personal vacation and sick leave. Ms. Ebert graciously proposed a provision that was really less than she may have otherwise been entitled to. She's going to cap her ability to receive comp for unused sick leave. And that was her request, and that's a testament to her approach with her fiscal ethics, to be frank with you. And I sound like I'm her lawyer and I'm your lawyer, but I was just so impressed with the ease at which this was collaborative. Performance bonuses, very standard. Ms. Ebert, future Superintendent Ebert, will be entitled to a performance incentive up to 5%. So there's no obligation, right? If the funds aren't there, they're not there for COLAs, et cetera. But she's agreed to that language of up to 5%. The next provision in this contract, I think, is extremely unique. Well, I shouldn't say that because it's not unique in some other districts, but you all as trustees wanted a specific provision in this contract committing to balanced governance. And this is a mutual commitment by the board and by Superintendent Ebert. And again, with my conversations with her, this was exceptionally important. And we know that the board has already begun training with balanced governance. And then later in the year, y'all are going to continue that with Superintendent Ebert. So there's a provision in this contract that specifically calls for balanced governance under the principles by Dr. Thomas Alsbury. Just briefly, what balanced governance is it refers to a collaborative and effective working relationship where both parties, the board and the superintendent, fulfill their distinct and complementary roles to ensure the success of the school district. It involves clear delineation of responsibilities, mutual respect, open communication, and a shared commitment to the district goals, particularly in advancing student achievement and well-being. This was very important to everyone, and it's in the contract, and it's really a mutual commitment. The evaluation performance is going to be tied to the specific balanced governance training, which will provide a basis for setting goals and guidelines that you all will be completing later in the year. Ms. Ebert has the right to terminate this agreement without cause. That section here is in the contract. That's relatively standard. One thing that we have in this contract now is that we know that whether a superintendent or anyone who may have left the board or left the school or have been terminated in the past still remains in that role for a period of time, whether it's 30 days or 60 days. And issues can arise once we've had a superintendent who's been terminated. And so this contract addresses to try to alleviate some of those concerns at the request of one of the conscientious trustees. This is a fantastic provision. This says, once notice is given, Superintendent Ebert shall pause any hiring, promotions, appointments, and/or transfer of personnel at every level of operations. She shall refrain from increasing salaries of employees in the interest of fiscal responsibility. And again, that was a proposal by you all, and Ms. Ebert agreed to that without hesitation. The board can terminate her contract for convenience. Just briefly, some people may not realize that this is an employment contract for 4 years. Technically means that she's entitled to 4 years unless she's terminated for cause. So if the board were to terminate her for convenience, let's say in 3 months, she would otherwise be entitled to the balance of that agreement over 3.5 years. And this board recognizes that that's not a good fiscal use of funds. And Ms. Ebert readily, easily agreed to limit that so that she doesn't get what might be in the corporate world a golden parachute. So she has agreed to limit her comp to 12 months, which is not at all uncommon. It is very standard, even for superintendent agreements. So we're very grateful to her for agreeing to that without hesitation. The other thing that this contract does is if Ms. Ebert, I feel like I should call her Superintendent Ebert, but not quite. If she is terminated for convenience within that last year, she's not going to get another 12 years, right? So if she's terminated for convenience with the last 3 months, she will get the balance of her contract only. So, for example, another 6 months. So there are a number of issues here where she could be terminated for cause. We hope and know that none of those things will happen. There's a standard dispute provision where if there's notice of termination for cause, the parties can engage in dispute resolution. And I think I mentioned the leave. Yes, it is standard, and she agreed to only buy back 5 days of her vacation, which I believe is standard, but we hope she's able to use all of her vacation. Everything else in this agreement is standard lawyering, I would say. And I don't have anything else to add unless the board has questions for me.
Thank you. And I can't see, thank you so much. We're going to have discussion, but I cannot see who's in the queue. It doesn't show on the screen. No, it's the eye level is fine, but I don't, if you press their button, I don't know who's.
Press it just so I can see, because we can see it on here. There you go.
I'm not showing.
Oh. So then I think that Trustee Dominguez is first, is that? No? Oh, okay.
I can help you.
Okay.
Go ahead.
Then I think it's Trustee Cavazos? No. Oh, you were testing. Does anybody have any questions at this time? Okay, then I am going to, Trustee, oh, no question? Oh, no question. Sorry, the screens are just blank, and so my apologies. I will ask for public comment now, and we do have somebody that has called ahead, and Dr. Beamel, if you would come forth. There's nobody else. Sorry, Dr. Beamel, that's not you. No. Give me a second, Dr. Beamel. Is it, okay, now we're ready.
Good evening, Tiffany Beamel for the record. I have a few inquiries regarding the superintendent's contract, and I must confess that in my time as a law clerk, I didn't work in educational law, just entertainment, insurance, and construction defect. So my skills are not in this wheelhouse, and I am quite green. Firstly, is the board ordinance portion of the contract in reference to the board taking back its power with regard to the operational dealings of the district, so the board will have some say in what happens in the schools? And if the superintendent's evaluation is supposed to be available a year before it's given, is there an amendment that will be required to be complete for that section, as it's obviously a shorter time period than December 15th deadline? I know that for our evaluations at the school level, there are very strict rules our administrators must follow, so I wonder if that has to be an amendment or addendum to be brought before the board again after the board ordinance training is completed and the evaluation is written. Lastly, the contract reads weirdly with the bouncing back and forth between referring to the superintendent by title and by name. I know that at the last meeting, a constituent did ask for more professionalism regarding the use of titles from the board, and I'm not sure if this was intentional or if there were just some copy-paste errors, but it reads weirdly in some places where it bounces between the name of the party and the job of the party. Just seems really weirdly off-putting. Thank you for your time.
Thank you so much. I don't see any other public comment. Okay, then I'm going to go ahead and entertain a motion. Trustee Esparza-Stroffigan.
Thank you, Madam President. And I just want to thank our attorney for the patience and the promptness and the expediency and her responsiveness to us all. Getting 11 schedules and 11 opinions and input is a major feat in the short amount of time. So thank you. I just want to say on behalf of the board before I make my motion. So since there's no further discussion at this time, I'd like to make a motion to accept 3.01, the Superintendent Employment Agreement.
Thank you. Trustee Biasotti?
I will second that motion.
So I have a first and I have a second. Please cast your votes. That motion passes 7-0. I'm going to go ahead and take item 3.05. I'm going to turn it over to Mr. Okazaki to handle this portion, and then we're going to take a recess.
Thank you, John Okazaki, General Counsel. This item is on your agenda because we are going to provide some transition assistance with Superintendent Ebert. Interim Superintendent Brenda Larson-Mitchell has agreed to stay on an additional 4 days to provide some assistance, and so we need to amend her employment agreement so that it doesn't terminate tonight. It terminates at the end of that assistance period.
Thank you. So just for the team, this is the technical part, right, that we have to make sure we cover. So is there any questions by any of the trustees? Okay, for public comment, I do not, I'm sorry, yes, Trustee Barron.
Okay, I think it's working now. Thank you, Madam President. If just in case it turns out that the 4 days are not enough, do we have any workings for a provision to, and again, I'm hoping that 4 days is enough, but we're trying to put the entire contents from a fire hose through a tiny little funnel. I'm just saying if it just happens that we need a little bit more time for that, are there any provisions that we could do to keep her on just a little bit longer to make sure that happens?
Thank you, and I'm going to ask our interim superintendent to jump in because yes, she has. We do have a provision, but superintendent.
For the record, Brenda Larson-Mitchell. Superintendent Ebert is a fast learner, but the 4 days is kind of what we agreed upon, but she will have my phone number, so I will be available if she has additional questions. Trustee Barron.
Thank you for that comment. Trustee Dominguez.
Thank you, Madam President. My question is, are we setting up Superintendent Ebert with electronics today? That way she has a running start on Monday.
Thank you. I'm going to have our Mr. Story to come up and answer that question. We have part of our transition plan has included making sure that she has the technology to hit the ground running, but I will ask him to respond.
Sure. President Bustamante Adams, members of the board, Todd Story, Chief Communications Officer for the record. We have had some communications as to the technology needs. Those have been communicated to the Office of the Superintendent, and it's my understanding that some items have been ordered. So we're still in that process.
I'm sorry, what about access to systems or any kind of systems that our interim superintendent has access to?
Yes, additionally through the technology office, those things are being taken care of.
Awesome, thank you.
Any other questions? Okay, we will, we didn't have anybody in public comment. So then I'm going to entertain a motion. Trustee Stevens?
I make a motion to approve.
I have a first to approve item 3.05. Trustee Barron. Oh, yes, Trustee Barron.
Yes, I'd like to second.
I have a first and a second. Please cast your votes. That motion passes 7-0. At this time, we're going to take a short recess. To me, that means about 20 minutes, if not shorter. We are going to have a press conference in our large conference room area next door, approximately 20 minutes. Thank you. Audience, for the opportunity to take a recess and to do that press conference. We are now going to go back to item 2.0, the consent agenda information. Before I go there is, I have some people that do want to do public comment on the consent agenda items. Oh.
It's okay.
All right, we will have Dr. Beamel and then Jeremy Hickler, I believe, Ms. Kreidel, and then Ms. Beer. We're going to take public comment first before we make any motions.
I think you have to open the consent agenda first, though, before I can talk, right? No? Yes?
I thought I opened it, but I will
I didn't think
we're
you
going
did.
to consent agenda item 2.0.
Okay. I didn't hear you, so I'm sorry.
That's okay.
Okay.
Thank you.
Good evening, Dr. Tiffany Beamel for the record. I'm respectfully asking that you pull 2.06, 2.07, and 2.08, the future school calendars, off the consent agenda for discussion and send them back to committee to be fixed. As a teacher, and this actually affects, there are glaring issues with the calendar that we have asked you to fix multiple times and have been ignored by previous boards. Perhaps this board will listen and ask the calendar committee to fix the problems. Problem 1, our first semester ends with the Friday before winter break, when our grades are due by 4 p.m. This gives us no time to prepare for second semester. Teachers have asked that CCSD give us the first day of second semester as a staff development day to prepare for the second semester. This will allow teachers to prepare their classrooms, prepare their grade books, prepare their Canvas modules, and actually enjoy their winter breaks. As the previous board has ignored our pleas, the current calendar for the next 3 years has our staff development day for the second semester, the useless Monday after our 3-day weekend for Martin Luther King Day. This makes no sense, as students do not need a break right after a 3-day weekend. Problem 2, in the 26-27 and 27-28 calendars, our last staff development days are scheduled for 2 weeks after spring break. I realize that none of the voting members taught, but I can tell you that generally the last staff development day of the year, being mid to late April, was an opportunity for new staff members coming to the school to visit campus, integrate with their new colleagues, and get acquainted to the school itself. It was a way to get into the new school and have a nice break in the testing season. Having the staff development day so soon after spring break will require our students to go 6 to 7 weeks during spring with no days off. And this is a problem, as you know, absenteeism is higher when the weather gets warmer. This needs to be looked at and adjusted because it's faulty logic all the way around. Problem 3, on the 27-28 calendar, there's a random staff development day on November 3rd, a Wednesday. We already have issues with no school in November, but why a Wednesday? The Tuesday staff development day for election day makes sense with so many strangers on campus for voting, but this day is random and out of sorts. Why November 3rd? There's no rhyme or reason for this. Problem 4, this year we already have teachers having to return to campus the day after Memorial Day to check out. Some campuses, the administrators are not requiring this. Some are, as it is apparently a site-based decision. In the 25-26 calendar, you have another teacher ending day the day after Memorial Day. Is this necessary, or can we adjust a contingency day to move the last day of school ahead a day? It seems arbitrary that something like the last contract day of school can be so flippant. Please pull these 3 items and send them back to the drawing board to make them make sense for the educators you serve, the students you serve, and the parents you serve. It needs to be cogent, and it is not. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Heckler and then Ms. Kreidel.
Jeremy Heckler, for the record. I am a teacher and librarian in the Clark County School District. And many years ago, I was on the phone with the district's ARL office. Those phone calls gave me a start at a career that I've had for almost 19 years and saved my family and I. I come to you today as you look to renew a partnership with Teachers of Tomorrow. I ask you to review their procedures and policies and ensure that every prospective teacher knows what is required of them and that they have due process when their dream is about to be extinguished. I'm not asking for a free pass because teaching is a hard profession that requires much. Just that each step of the process is clearly spelled out so they can be given every chance to achieve their dreams.
Thank you, Ms. Kreidel, and then Ms. Spear.
Good evening, trustees. My name is Vicki Kreidel, and I'm a teacher in CCSD and the president of NEA of Southern Nevada. I'm speaking to the Teachers of Tomorrow agenda item. So I fully understand why we need to contract with abbreviated teacher training programs, and although not ideal, as long as they're used to recruit limited amounts of new educators, we think it's appropriate. However, when I saw the Teachers of Tomorrow on the agenda, I saw a giant red flag. You see, I've heard several stories, including one recent, from people who used this program to get their teacher training and were left very unhappy with the process. I feel it's necessary to caution you that not all teacher training programs are equal. What I've heard is that if your supervising administrator refuses to sign the recommendation, you have no recourse. Anyone who works in CCSD can tell you that you will, on occasion, find yourself working with an administrator who may not be fair. My concern is that anyone who pays the approximately $5,000 for a program should have a way to appeal if an administrator chooses not to sign the recommendation. This company will be working in our schools and training people who will be working directly with our students. So how the program operates matters. I would suggest that someone from CCSD go over their processes in detail and make sure that they allow people in the program to appeal decisions that don't make sense to them. I also ask that the communication between the program and those enrolled is good and that the people being trained have support when they have questions or concerns. Being in the classroom is rough these days, and the only way to survive is with a solid support system. Thank you for listening to my concerns.
Thank you. Ms. Beer?
Nicole Beer for the record. I come before you today with my second request for Irene Bustamante Adams to resign effective immediately from her position as school board president. She is not fit for duties and has made this board and district a mockery to our community and state, and left CCSD open and ripe for litigation. On January 28, 2025, Superintendent Larson Mitchell, Trustee Cavazos, Joe Caruso, Irene Bustamante Adams, and I had an evening meeting to discuss the doxing and hate speech posted by Lorena Biasotti and her group. During the meeting, Bustamante Adams declared that she struggled to navigate email. Therefore, I've taken the liberty of providing copies, the ladies here have them, of policy GP6 from the CCSD Board of Governance policy in the event she was not able to secure a copy that I attached to an email. This email read today: not only has the deadline 90 generous school days for you to respond regarding my requests, there are literally over 100 requests from the community, parents, and others. Bear in mind, these are the only the ones that I'm aware of, have been submitted, and you have done nothing. I have added a link to your responsibilities as president, many of which you are in direct violation of. You should immediately and without further ado be stripped of your duties as president because you don't do them. Your lack of ability in hiding from your responsibility will be no defense against litigation. I thank Trustee Cavazos for strength and patience, as she has been an ongoing target of abuse and doxing, as well as myself. I understand that Bustamante Adams doesn't care about me, a dedicated teacher, mother, wife, activist, and Christian. She should at least protect Trustee Cavazos. I thank the CCSD Police Department for not only facilitating the police report I filed against Lorena Biasotti, but for taking the time on their shifts to drive by my school to check on my safety. I apologize that you have to protect me from a person who is directly in charge of mine and their wages and compensation. Over 100 community members and parents have filed complaints against Lorena Biasotti, and not one of those has had a response of any kind from the president of the school board. With her duties under both GP6 and GP20 of the trustee governance policy, not to mention literally thousands of posts and in-person conversations with folks from the community who are outraged by both Biasotti's actions and Bustamante's inactions. They have made a mockery of CCSD and democracy. Neither of them have the decency to be ashamed. Please know I'm ashamed for them and hope God forgives them for their crimes against me, Trustee Cavazos, and humanity. Lastly, Brenda, my Brenda, we've come a long way. I wish you every joy the world has for you, and you're right, God's got a plan for you. I'll see you around. Thank you.
Thank you so much. See no others for public comment on agenda item 2.0. I will entertain a motion to adopt the consent agenda. Trustee Dominguez.
Thank you, Madam President. I know I think we kind of skipped discussion, but I would like to pull item 2.0, 2.07, 2.08, and 2.16. My reasoning for 2.7 and 2.8 is to allow the new superintendent to adjust the calendar as she sees fit for the future. And then 2.16, I just had some concerns regarding gifting for incentivizing accounts to students. So with that, I'm going to put a motion. And the motion is to approve the consent agenda, but to pull 2.07, 2.08, and 2.16.
Thank you. Do I have a second? Trustee Cavazos?
I would like to ask the maker of the motion, are you asking for these items to be pulled for discussion only, or for, discussion and possible action to table?
Well, we can do it either way. I'm amenable to either tabling for 2.7 2.08, and 16. If my colleagues are amenable to that, I am amenable to tabling those items so the new superintendent can review.
Okay, so I have a motion for, from trustee Dominguez to table 2.07, 2.08, and 2.16. Trustee Barron.
Yes, actually, I think I'm piggybacking on Trustee Cavazos, and thank you very much, Madam President, for calling on me. I would suggest to my trustee colleague here to modify your motion to pull for discussion, so we might be able to discuss further, because there might be other trustees who feel the way that you do, and they might make a motion to make what you have in mind actually happen.
Trustee Dominguez. I think you might have a second, but what would you like to do?
Thank you. I would like to pull 2.07, 2.08, and 2.16 for discussion.
Thank you. So the motion is, as stated, Trustee Biassatti.
Thank you, Madam President. I wanted to second the motion to table those 3 items. However, if it has been amended for discussion, I will go ahead and second it for that too.
Thank you. I have a motion to pull 2.07, 2.08, 2.16 for discussion, and a second. Please cast your votes. Okay, so I have 6 yeses, 1 no. That motion passes. The remaining of the agenda will move forward. Now we will turn to 2.07, the calendars, and 2.08 for discussion. Interim Superintendent.
Sorry. Thank you. For the record, Brenda Larson-Mitchell. I'll invite Ms. Triana, Chief of Human Resources, and the calendar team to come up.
Thank you, Ms. Triana. If you could just give us high level about the calendars, and then we'll take questions from the trustees.
Good evening. Thank you, Madam President, members of the board. My name is Roanne Triana, Chief Human Resource Officer. With me, Jason Ganoza, and also Brian Redmond. Brian Redmond's going to go ahead and do that high-level overview that we discussed in briefings.
Madam President, members of the board, Interim Superintendent Larson-Mitchell. For the record, Brian Redmond, Director of Human in the Human Resources Unit. Apologize. So just a quick high level of the board or the calendar process. The calendar committee meets every 2 years to create these calendars. The calendar committee consists of about 24 people that are from various departments in the district, which includes elementary principals, middle school principals, high school principals, along with various departments like transportation, nutrition services, and so on. After we create a draft calendar, usually in January, February, that draft calendar goes out to SOTs of the principals that are on the calendar committee, and they're presented to parents. We also take these calendars to government relations for feedback. We also take them to the Superintendent Student Advisory Council, which they were presented to about a month ago. They were presented to the Teaching and Learning Committee, which consists of region superintendents and assistant superintendents. And we also present them to chiefs. And so these have gone through a robust process, and that's essentially the high-level view of how these calendars are created.
Thank you. Questions from trustees? Trustee Dominguez.
Thank you, Madam President. Thank you for coming. I know we went through a lot of questions during our briefing, so I want to be brief. So I know, just for the public's knowledge, that calendar 25 through 26 is due. I think you said May in the meeting. And then currently with calendars, with the items that we have before us, is 2.07, so FY 26, 27, and FY 27, 28. When are those calendars due?
Madam President, members of the board, Interim Superintendent Larson Mitchell, and Trustee Dominguez. Those calendars are due next year. So we try and get the board the calendars approved ahead of time. But as far as the application to NDE, they happen yearly. So the 26-27 calendar would happen by May 1st, 2026, and the 27-28 be May 1st, 2027.
Thank you. What are the effects if we delay these two items for our new superintendent to review?
There would be no effects. If that's the board's desire to have Superintendent Ebert review them, we have no problem with that.
Thank you. Yes.
Roanne Triana for the record. We just try to get these calendars out for the sake of the community, knowing that we are the largest employer in the state of Nevada. Hotels depend on our calendars, churches as they plan camps, daycare facilities, and so our calendar really drives a lot in the city. So that's our intention of always having these calendars ready 2 years in advance for the public.
Thank you. And that makes a lot of sense. For foresight, colleagues, I'm ready for a motion, but we'll get there, I think, after the public comment. But until then, my train of thought is if we delay this or table this, we could possibly put it on the calendar for May, just for our new superintendent to review. So thank you.
Thank you, Trustee Johnson.
I'll hold my question.
So we are on 2.07 and 2.08. Those are the calendars. We have a question. Trustee Esparza-Stroffigan.
So for edification about the process, we did the briefing and you explained that. So I know there's a lot of concern about certain days falling on certain holidays and all of those pieces. It's really a hard thing to do, right? So can you talk to us about some of the challenges with really accommodating everybody's ask? Like what are those, what were some of the, because I know you had teachers and others representatives there, they definitely voiced the concern about how things fell on the calendar, but I know that there's a requirement for seat time. And that's another thing that really is challenging for us. So if you could explain and give us a little bit of education on that.
Sure. Madam President, members of the board, Interim Superintendent Larson Mitchell, and Trustee Esparza-Stroffigan. Brian Redmond for the record. So just, when we present all these calendars and try and build them, there's a lot of things that go into it. Because you're looking at multiple levels of employees, 9-month, 10-month, 11-month, 12-month employees, along with the school calendar, requirements for school days, things like that. So I think some of the things you're referring to that we spoke of, for example, the semesters have to be between 89 and 91 days, and that has to do with the Carnegie units. And the Carnegie units are essentially what we use to determine whether high school students are going to be getting credit for the classes they're taking for college. And if you drop below 89 days, it becomes a problem with the amount of time they're in class. So you're really kind of stuck in that window of 89 to 91 days. And so we're always trying to work with that, and again, at the same time, working with all the different staff schedules to make sure that everything falls within that time frame.
Can I have a follow-up to that? So what I'm hearing is, because it probably has to be consecutive, right? And so it makes it a challenge to try to keep that block of time, because if we don't have the seat time and we don't do it in the way that the calendar falls, they could lose credits. So that's a big concern for me as a former educator, that we can't have our kids losing credits just because the holidays don't fall on the calendar the way that they should.
So something that comes up often in the Clark County School District is we want a week off at Thanksgiving. And so we looked at that, and if I could ask Brian to share a little bit more, because that is always a hot topic.
Absolutely. So with the issue of Thanksgiving, I know that it was probably about a decade ago when the school district for 2 years were able to give a full week off during Thanksgiving. The issue with that was essentially what the school district did before is they were having SBCT days, I believe they were called. And what that was instead of having staff development days, they were building in that staff development time during the week. And so they were able to take that extra time and give that time off during Thanksgiving. The state came down and said that the school district was no longer able to do that. So they had to take those days back. And so the issue that always comes up with Thanksgiving, with all the different things that we talk about, and it comes up pretty much in every meeting we have about calendars, is the one thing that stops us from doing it is you have to take those days away from our 9-month employees. We have over 8,000 9-month employees in the district, and they don't get paid for those days. So they're already losing out pay on for the Wednesday before Thanksgiving, and during winter break they get paid for the 2 holidays that we set aside for them there, but the other days they're not paid for. So the issue is, do you take those days away from your 9-month employees right in the middle of the holiday season? And in every group we met with and the calendar committee, it was a resounding no, that we did not want to take those days away from essentially our most economically vulnerable population in the district.
Thank you. Trustee Satori?
Thank you. One thing I just want to comment on the public comment that was made, but I do think it's worth revisiting and talking about a little bit, in May with Superintendent Ebert as well, because the 2 main ones, that the day after, I had added in my calendar that work day, that PD day after winter break, and we do it after spring break as well, but it was huge for my teachers. I mean, they were like, that day coming back to be able to reset my classroom, to not have to come in Saturday or Sunday, at the end of winter break before school starts was really huge. And also I made the change of ending on the Thursday and not the Friday, and that way they had that Friday to check out. So I know there's been a lot that's gone into the calendar, but those 2 changes that I made alone really resounded well with the teachers. So I think it's important to look at.
Thank you. Trustee Zamora?
Thank you, team. Thank you, Madam President. I'm trying to rethink of my question real quick. I think it was data. Do you all have concrete data of our absentee rate the week of Thanksgiving and all the days around the holidays? Because I know absenteeism is a huge issue that we're having in our district, and I feel like we're in a kind of weird balance, right? But I would love to see if we can prepare some data to see if there needs to be changes, how can we fix it, where are we going to sacrifice this or sacrifice that? Basically, it feels like we're in the. Do you have any data now, though?
Madam President, members of the board, Trustee Zamora, there is data. We don't have it with us right now, but we can absolutely get that for you.
Perfect. Thank you.
Trustee Stevens?
Hey, guys. Thank you for giving us an overview of the challenges of putting such a large calendar together. I'm just curious, if the board were to go ahead and approve this calendar, and the new superintendent comes in and says, you know what, I'd like to make some changes, how does that affect, what would the process be for that? How long would I guess it would be potentially, depending on what you wanted to change, but is there room for that kind of editing if it was, in 2 years? I mean, potentially even the next year's calendar. If she wanted to do that, do we have the ability to do that? And what would that look like?
Sure. Madam President, members of the board, Trustee Stevens, yes. So we can modify the calendar in the future if these were board approved. We can always pull them and make any modifications that we need to. So it would just be a process of modifying them, speaking to the calendar committee, and then putting them back on a board agenda for discussion.
Thank you. Trustee Cavazos?
Thank you, Madam President. I just want to go back to Brian for just a moment because another question on the Thanksgiving issue, which is, as Rowana said, big topic all the time. Just wanted to clarify that the support professionals, if we were to go back to that, they don't have the choice of working or not working. Is that correct?
That is correct.
Okay, because I think there was some confusion on that, thinking that they still were able, as in the past, and I'm trying to say that they don't have that, and that is correct. They do not have that option. They would lose those 2 days' pay. Is that correct?
That is correct.
Okay, thank you so much.
Thank you. Is there any other questions on item 2.07 or 2.08? Yes, trustee
My question is regarding parliamentary. So are we going to do public comment and motion together with 2.07 and 2.08? Or will we take?
I did public comment on the consent agenda items already, so we've gone through that process.
Just for clarity. Yeah.
Yep, and is there anybody, though, that wants to have public comment on agenda item 2.07 or 2.08? Dr. Beamel?
Okay. Okay, Dr. Beamel, for the record, thank you, Trustee Dominguez, for pulling these two items. I really appreciate it. I do think that, oh, you didn't start my time. I do think that it's important to at least let the new superintendent have a seat at the table with regard to these calendars. I think it's really weird that none of you mentioned the fact that in the spring on both of these calendars, you have 6 weeks of no time off for kids. 6 weeks in the Clark County School District in the spring is testing season. It's also our highest rate of absenteeism. I can tell you that I have kids I haven't seen since we got back from spring break. And to have no staff development days, no days off at all, from the end of spring break to the end of the school year is asinine. You really have to sit down and think about what you're doing. That we just threw a bunch of principals and SOTs and the student advisory committee under the bus for this calendar, when you have at least 36 teachers on Facebook right now complaining about this calendar who never saw this calendar before the board docs was released. I don't understand, but I appreciate it. And I just wanted to let you know, like, I really appreciate that you pulled this. I hope that you guys will vote to let Superintendent Ebert at least have a say in what's going on, because this isn't right. And there's absolutely no justification why we cannot move our Monday staff development day in January from the day after Martin Luther King Day to the first day back from winter break. That has nothing to do with counting and seat time or anything else, because if it did, then we wouldn't say ACT Day counts as seat time when the only kids on campus are the juniors. We're playing fallacy and we're playing with words, and it's ridiculous. The redundancy of what is happening here is that we just want to mess around with time. We can't mess around with time. If we're going to play with words, we're going to play with words. Let's call a spade a spade. But we can move it to that first day back from winter break so that teachers can actually prepare for students. Without students on campus, without having to worry about it, it's an actual instructional day, the first day that kids come back, instead of just a day of babysitting. Until you have lived through it, you don't know. And I don't mean to sound like that, but you guys weren't there, you don't know. It's really difficult when you have 200 kids in your classroom and you're trying to set everything up. It's really hard. So thank you, again, Trustee Dominguez, for having the sense to actually do something about this.
Thank you. David Gomez?
Thank you for taking my card. This is David Gomez, Nevada Peace Alliance President. I just wanted to agree with Trustee Dominguez. We need to allow Superintendent Joan Ebert to make these decisions, because at the end of the day, when you really think about it, when our current interim and superintendent decides to go and allow God to have a plan for her, who's going to take the blame if somebody starts to have an issue with it? Who's going to take the blame? Nobody's going to take the blame except the superintendent. So if she's not the one that's looking at this and having consideration on the matter, then you're obviously handing her something that she has to wait another 2 years to go back and correct if she does have to correct anything. So taking into consideration what she does, I really do appreciate Trustee Dominguez. She does question. She does her job. I'm really proud to, she's not my trustee, but I'm really proud that we have a trustee like that takes into consideration and looking at the agenda items and saying, no, these are the things that we really need to look at. And I hope that, you know, one thing I learned in martial arts, I was going to say something else, but God is good. One thing I learned in martial arts is I can't recreate the wheel. So when, as a 7th degree black belt, when I do a certain type of kick, it's a kick that has already been taught. I can improve it, and when I watch somebody do it in a more improved way, I can learn from it. And when I learn from it, I can practice it and perfect it. Well, obviously, she's showing us, and this is what I've been asking for all these years, somebody look at these consent agendas, because we have approved things that are just so crazy, like mirrors. And I found out later what the mirrors were for, which is kind of gross, but anyways, the thing is that people need to question some of these consent agenda items that are being approved. Millions of dollars. Like back in the days, we had a consultant, $2.1 million, Dr. Green, who consulted and only mentored, I think it was 2 or 3 kids. For $2.1 million? Are you crazy? What the heck? You know, who gives somebody that kind of money? So I'm not accusing him of anything. I'm accusing the trustees of that time for not taking deliberation and looking at the consent agenda and not just pushing through the line saying, we have to get out of here, we have to get out of here, we only get $700. I don't want to be here all day. I got to get out of here and I got to get home. So you guys signed up for this job. You volunteer. I volunteer too. And I've been doing it for 26 years, going on my 27th year. But it's your responsibility to please look at this and please take note from Dominguez that you guys have to really look at these things. Thank you.
Thank you so much. We're going to move to item 2.16. We're going to hear that. So interim superintendent.
Thank you. For the record, Brenda Larson Mitchell. I know we have Mr. Story here, Alvin, and I believe Dr. Keating is online.
Dr. Keating, are you online?
I am. Thank you.
Okay, we're waiting for the rest of the team to come up.
Thank you, President Bustamante Adams. We have, and trustees, certainly, and interim superintendent Brenda Larson Mitchell. We're joined by the community engagement team who has worked on this contract, and we are available to answer any questions that you may have.
Thank you. Trustee Dominguez.
Madam President, my understanding is that we were supposed to do a motion and take one at a time before we started.
I was looking to my parliamentarian vice chair.
Thank you, Madam President. I went to council because the motion was to pull the 3 agenda items for discussion, so we're doing by discussion one at a time.
Okay, and then
So we started with 2.06 and 2.07, sorry, 2.07 and 2.08, and now we're going to 2.16, since we did not pass consent agenda as a whole.
So would we have to, then public comment was for 2.07 and 2.08
Yes.
combined?
Yes.
And then, okay, well, I'm sorry, that was.
Thank you. Trustee Dominguez, do you have any questions on?
Yes, if the team could give a brief overview, just high level on the Silver State contract.
Thank you. Thank you, Vice President. Before we start the questioning, is there anybody that has public comment on 2.16 and hasn't completed a public comment card? Okay, please proceed.
Good evening, Madam President and trustees, interim superintendent. My name is Alvin Dizon for the record. The agreement that we are trying to go into with Silver State Schools Credit Union is basically to have what's called an affinity card, and that will provide members of the union the opportunity to basically identify a school, elementary through secondary, all of the schools that they choose, and they can have basically identifying the schools, and all the eligible purchases that they have will go towards the school. 2%, timeout, let me make sure, 0.2% for credit card purchases and 0.15% for debit card purchases at the end of the calendar year for that, each of the schools that they've identified to go back to the schools as their own revenue. Alongside of that, they will use the cards to kind of rally their community to kind of get behind the school of their choice, one that maybe they were leaders at, one that they taught at, one that their schools or their students are attending. So with that being said, That's the overview for the card. It is basically revenue generating for individual schools.
Thank you. Trustee Dominguez, do you have any other questions?
Yes, I do. Thank you, Madam President. So I am really excited for this. I think this is a great idea. My concern is working out the kinks in the contract. And so my concern is having, if there's any kind of stipulation in the contract regarding predatory lending. And I'll give more for that. So I'm concerned that low-income families and maybe low-income students that are pulled in through prizes or gifts to take on a credit card for an incentive. Is there any kind of verbiage or wording for that?
Madam President, Trustees, Interim Superintendent Larson Mitchell, Todd Story for the record. The contract itself does not address or stipulate specifically how the credit union would market to its members. It just says that they would carry on marketing to their members. Clearly, that could possibly involve incentives. I think any company that is trying to draw new customers would provide incentives for that purpose. I think the chief incentive in this particular instance is the fact that you can use the card to show your pride for that particular school in addition to the school district. So whether you're a current student family attending a school, you perhaps are an alumni, maybe you want to have a particular school because you live close to it and you want to be supportive, you enjoy football games or any of the other myriad of options that we offer for community participation. So those would be the initial drivers to marketing and getting customers to either convert their current accounts to these affinity cards or to potentially come on as a new customer, also while then having the opportunity to choose this card as the look for your card.
I see. And my concern is that the contract is not including any sort of marketing or gifting in the contract. So that is where I'm concerned, is that a child could be incentivized by a gift, any gift, and if they get their parent to sign up for a credit card or a bank account. And so I'm just kind of wondering, the language is not there, and that makes me concerned. And colleagues, I would like to table this until.
And actually, Trustee Dominguez, I'm going to ask our legal counsel wants to weigh in on that. Mr. Okazaki?
Thank you, John Okazaki, General Counsel. Trustee Dominguez, I did actually look into the contract in regard to your specific issue. It's my opinion that it is addressed in the contract and there are protections. So in the contract, there's an acknowledgement of the federal and state laws that protect certain consumers, including students, underage, minors, and others. And they are identified as protected consumers. And under federal and state law, credit card companies may not solicit anything in regard to these protected consumers. In fact, CCSD had to acknowledge that it would not do that as well because that would potentially violate those laws. So in my opinion, I've read through all of the provisions in regard to how this thing would be marketed and how it would be presented. It's my opinion that the contract sufficiently protects against your concern and that neither the credit union nor CCSD, they know and they will not be allowed to solicit anything from minors or students.
Thank you.
If I
Trustee
could follow up
Dominguez?
with that question. Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Okazaki. So I'm trying to refresh here. If, from my memory, my recollection is there's no wording or verbiage towards gifts.
Not specifically, but that would be a solicitation. In other words, state and federal law prohibits either the credit union or CCSD representatives to approach and talk to the student in any way about this program. You are not allowed to solicit credit cards or banking things from minors.
Thank you. And is there, I'm trying to understand maybe if Silver State would do like some kind of raffle or some kind of incentive. And that's kind of my concern, was that that incentive, the soliciting, as you termed out.
Yes, any type of program in which they are targeting minors for the purposes of soliciting participation in this program would be prohibited by federal and state law.
Thank you. I don't see any verbiage in here by soliciting in the contract.
It's Section 3G is where CCSD acknowledges those federal and state laws. And again, as I'm saying, it's my interpretation, because although the credit union doesn't do that, I am under the understanding they requested this from us because they know it's against the law, and they needed to make sure that we, as participants in this program, would also comply with that law.
Thank you.
Thank you. Trustee Cavazos?
I'm sorry, I had my name in the queue because I wasn't sure how you were going to proceed with the 3 items, so I was actually going to address 207 and 208, so if I could just leave my name in the queue.
Thank you, Trustee Cavazos. Trustee Stevens?
Thank you. I just would like, since we're having discussion, I would like to disclose that while I was at an event at Foothill High School yesterday, I happened to run into the CEO of Silver State Credit Union, and I know him because I work for a credit union, not this one. And in our conversation, I had some questions as well. And in talking to them, there are some things that they made very clear. And so it makes me not nervous about this whatsoever. It's really, from what I can read from the intent of this contract, it looks a lot like it gives our students the ability to co-brand. It gives them and have school pride. It gives them access to banking where they might not have it otherwise. The other thing about credit unions to keep in mind is that their interest rates tend to be much lower, and they're capped more so than other financial institutions. So I don't worry about any of those things. The one thing that, since we're now discussing it, the one thing I did notice, and I talked to you about this briefly, Mr. Todd's story, was just there was a line about how we are, here it is, that it should be solely responsible for ensuring truth and accuracy, and then CCSD is also responsible for that as well. So what you just said a minute ago, you were talking about the marketing. And so I guess I'm wondering, do we have any policy that I'm not seeing in here that Silver State will follow to ensure that emails that are being sent out to parents, students, and what have you, that they are within the guidelines that the school district says is okay? Like, what will be the process for that? I mean, do you give them and this might sound like a dumb question, I don't know, because I don't know the process, but do you give them a list of folks that they can, that they can just send emails to, or are they sending their marketing info, their email to you, and then you kind of edit and send out? Like, how does that work?
Madam President.
And Mr. Story, hold on. I'm asking our legal counsel, do you want to weigh in?
Yes,
Okay.
again, thank you. I apologize for interrupting, but there is a provision for marketing. It's Section 7, and it does refer to our regulation in regard to how we are going to participate in the marketing of this program. Again, it's not going to be allowed to be directed to any students. But I think, if I understand your question, our regulation in regard to solicitation for these types of fundraising or programs or those types of programs is referenced actually in the article, in the contract. Yeah.
Thank you. Trustee Barron?
Thank you, Madam President. I'd like to make a point of order. I really appreciate we've had some really good discussion on 2.06. I'm very much used to if you pull an item from a consent agenda, we address it right in order. It seemed like we had a robust conversation on 2.06, and I was quite frankly expecting a motion to close out that item so we can go to 2.07, which we haven't heard from yet. And then we'll already jump to yet another motion. Could we please 2.7, and then we jump to 2.7, and then 2.8, then we jump to this one. Yeah. And I would like to just make sure that we handle things in a forthwith manner. And
Thank you.
That's just my point. I'm asking for a point of order
Thank you.
to be suggested and to be followed.
Thank you, Trustee Barron. Mr. Okazaki, are you in the queue?
Yes.
Go ahead.
Thank you. I did note that when the motion was made in regard to the consent agenda, that the items were being pulled for discussion. So the way I interpreted that, hopefully I didn't misinterpret it, was that you wanted to pull those items simply for discussion and then vote on the whole consent agenda. There have been occasions where a board member has requested an item to be pulled for separate discussion and action. And when that happens, we do actually go through each item and do the whole routine with the discussion, the public comment, and then action on that particular item and move forward. I was cognizant of the fact that the motion did not include action, it was just for discussion. So my understanding was that the consent agenda would be voted on in totality.
And I
Thank
want to
you.
clarify, Madam President, sorry for cutting you off. We did not pull 2.06 from discussion. It was 2.07 and 2.08.
I might have got the numbers. I might have gotten the numbers wrong. But however, I think we already approved the consent agenda.
We did not approve the consent
we did
agenda.
We did not
No.
approve the consent agenda.
The motion was to just pull the discussion.
The motion was to approve the consent agenda and pull the 2.07.
I-
Look back at what Caitlin said.
And I checked with council to make sure, and it was just to pull for discussion.
That's what I have. So Trustee Esparza-Straffigan?
So I noticed on the contract, and it's a long one, so thank you to our counsel for giving us the feedback on the details. We all read it deeply, but we're not lawyers. So there's a school that utilizes the cart. I believe it's on the back on the last page. There's one, or can you clarify? It says it's listing of participating schools, and there's one listed. So I just wanted to get the background, if there was any knowledge of if they're actually using it or it's going to happen.
Madam President, trustees, and interim superintendent. My name is Alvin Dizon for the record, and the school that's listed is Southeast Career Tech Academy, and they do have a branch on site. And they're the only school in the district to have one, a functioning, fully functioning branch on site, and they would be the first school, if agreed upon, they would be the first school to basically pilot. But it is also open to all the schools as it is part of that.
So follow-up question, thank you for clarification, because that means it's probably part of the programming at the Career and Technical Academy, and we do want to have our students really have financial literacy throughout, and the fact that they're willing to kind of practice this is, I think, encouraging. So thank you for that clarification.
Thank you. Trustee Zamora, do you have a question? No. Okay. Trustee Biassadi?
I wanted to make a motion to pull Agenda 2.06 for discussion, but I will wait until you close out this discussion.
Yes, you would have to wait. Thank you. Trustee Dominguez?
I feel like I need to go back. I'm fairly certain I had motioned to approve the consent agenda and pull 2.07, 2.08, and 2.16. However, are we going to do, we're able to do a motion now?
I'm still on the same motion, but I want to make sure, Trustee Cavazos, you don't have any questions, and Trustee Biassadi doesn't have any other questions, so I think we are done with discussion.
Beautiful.
Of
Are we required
2.0, so now I'm looking for a motion to approve the consent agenda, if that's,
And Madam President, just to make sure, do we need to open up public comment?
we
Again?
have opened up public comment for 2.07, 2.08, and 2.16.
Okay, all right. Well, then I'm ready for a motion.
Yes, hold on. And so we're not ready for approval of the whole agenda. Trustee Biassadi wants to put a motion to pull 2.06. So, Trustee Biassadi, please make your motion.
Thank you, Madam President. My motion to pull consent item 2.06 for discussion. I'm waiting for a second, right?
Only for a second, yep. So she wants to pull 2.06 for discussion. Do I have a second?
Madam President, if I could point out to Trustee Biasotti that this calendar is due in May, and so there might not be enough time for the superintendent to review. But if you'd still like to continue, I will second the motion.
I would like to continue. Thank you.
I will second the motion.
So I have a first from Trustee Biasotti and a second from Trustee Dominguez to pull for discussion 2.06. Please cast your votes. That does not move forward. We have 3 yeses, 0 abstentions, and 4 noes. So then, Trustee Dominguez, I will entertain your motion.
Finally, okay. Wow. Okay, so I would like to make a motion to table 2.07, 2.08, until there is a future agenda after Superintendent Ebert has time to review the calendar, and to approve 2.16, and to approve the rest of the consent agenda.
Thank you. I have a second by Trustee Cavazos.
I will second that motion.
Thank you. So I have a first and a second to approve the remaining agenda, but table 2.07, 2.08 for future agenda, and approve 2.16. Please cast your votes.
Good job. Good job.
That passes 7-0. Thank you. Trustee Henry, please read the warrants.
Thank you so much. The ratified warrants as listed in the bills payable transmittal and board memorandum number 16-24-25 in the total amount of $191,775.65.
Thank you. We're going to move to item 3.02, a legislative update. So I'd like to invite Mr. Story, and then I don't know if Dr. Keating is still on the phone. Remember, 3.02 is not an action item.
Madam President, members of the board, Interim Superintendent Larson Mitchell, Todd Story, Chief Communications Officer. For the record, we are joined from beautiful Carson City by Dr. Brad Keating, here for the latest legislative update.
Thank you, Mr. Story, Madam President, members of the board. For the record, this is Brad Keating, Assistant Superintendent of Community Partnerships and Government Relations. Let me start really quickly by thanking you for not going too hard on Alvin Dazan a few minutes ago. I'm sure he was a little stressed up there. So today is the 67th day of the legislative session. And it's been one of the busiest weeks of the session. So tomorrow evening, April 11th, is the first major deadline for the first House committee passage. So what that means is all bills that are not exempted must be heard and passed out of their first committee, or that bill ends up dying. After we finish with this deadline tomorrow evening, we expect many floor sessions to occur in the Assembly and Senate, as April 22nd is the deadline for first House passage. So we've been sitting in committees left and right. Many of you have experienced those. Now we will transition over the next 2 weeks to really spending a lot of time on the floor as the Assembly and Senate start making votes. So currently, just so you know, there are 1,098 bills have been introduced. And now in the next 30 hours, we will see how many of those will move forward to the floor and continue. So let me go through a few bills that have been heard at the legislature recently, just to give you all an update. There was Senate Bill 81 was heard earlier this week, which is really a reduced reporting bill brought by the Department of Education. So that bill is aimed at reducing unnecessary administrative reporting requirements for our schools and our districts. We spend a lot of time reporting a lot of information to the district, to the state, and the state worked closely with superintendents to determine if there are duplicative reports, removing those so that we don't have to keep doing those. Senate Bill 403, the Commission on Innovation and Excellence in Education, that was brought by Senator Don Darrow Loop. That bill proposes the creation and the continuance of the Commission on Innovation and Excellence in Education. So the Commission's role is to explore and recommend best practices aimed at improving educational outcomes, fostering innovation in teaching methods, and really enhancing the performance of educators and students across the state. Another bill recently heard was Senate Bill 444, which is an electronic device policy brought by Senator Taylor. That bill requires school districts to update their policies and create a policy surrounding the student use of electronic devices. The goal is really to create clear guidelines for students, outlining the consequences of misuse and any exceptions there might be in using cellular phones. It's a move towards really better managing technology in the classroom while maintaining the appropriate student behavior. So we're clearly on the right path there. We would just need a policy by the board with the information we've already put together. Assembly Bill 416 was heard earlier this week by Assembly Member Miller. That bill focuses on protecting the freedom to access library materials by preventing book bans and censorship in public libraries. The bill really works to ensure that library staff are safeguarded for any type of intimidation or harm, particularly related to the materials that cover marginalized communities. Earlier this evening or this afternoon, Assembly Bill 426 was heard, which deals directly with the Clark County School District and our school organizational teams and our principal, our authority over decisions and principal roles. That was brought by Assemblymember Karras. The sponsor stated today that the bill really aims to improve decision-making and accountability processes, enhance how large districts operate, and ensure decisions are made with greater local input. I think it was last week or Monday, every day is bleeding together right now up here. Assembly Bill 445 was heard by Assemblymember Monroe Moreno, another bill that's related to books in libraries. That bill establishes the criteria for the removal of books and has each district create a policy that all schools follow if and when books are challenged. We just heard Assembly Bill 454, the Smart Heart Law by Assemblymember Nadeem, addressing student health and safety by potentially expanding requirements for heart health education for our coaches, making sure CPR training's up to date, ensuring they know how to use AED, all the life-saving techniques. Clearly an important step to ensure our students, staff, and educators are prepared for emergency situations. And one for the public I wanted to mention, Assembly Bill 527. So that's the school bus traffic violations detection system. So Assemblymember Brown May brought this bill forward, which proposes the installation of systems on school buses to detect traffic violations, particularly drivers illegally passing a stopped bus. The systems capture evidence, which must be reviewed by a police officer before any fines are issued. So it really prioritizes student safety, especially around school bus zones. To give you an idea, Carson City School District and Clark County School Districts both have done a pilot recently. Carson City with only four of their buses, but I'll focus on Clark County. And we, over a 90-day period, we watched over a 90-day period. We put on this camera on 30 of our school buses. So on 30 buses over 90 days, we found that there were a total of 5,380 violations across the valley on those buses. So an estimated 112.1 violations per weekday and 6.1 violations per bus on a daily basis of people passing when they shouldn't have done that. So that bill's moving forward in a true bill to really protect our students as they get on and off the bus. As I mentioned, so those are some bills that have been heard. I wanted to mention just quickly a few notable bills that have moved forward through the committee this week and will now head to the floor. One of them's the first Assembly Bill 156. That deals with the Board of School Trustees salary and appointments by Assemblymember Mosca. So Assembly Bill 156 discusses the compensation, the appointment process, and provides voting rights for some of our school board members and trustees. The bill could potentially impact how trustees are compensated and appointed, so we will continue to watch that closely, but that moved through its first hurdle in its committee and Assembly on Education. Assembly Bill 472, the program we worked closely with Assemblymember Mosca on. That's the J1 visa grant program transitioning to H1B, but really making sure that we're taking care of our teachers that move here, moving the J1 visa grant program into that H1B category, which would affect the recruitment of international teachers and professionals. So if passed, that may make some changes to the way we hire from the global talent pool. So we're excited to watch that one continue to pass. Assembly Bill 533 has received some press attention. That's the open enrollment bill. Assemblymember Torres Fawcett brought that bill that allows students to attend schools outside of their designated zones under specific circumstances. CCSD is already doing 95% of what that bill does through our COSA process. So we're working with the members of the legislature to ensure that a practice that we think is successful here in Clark County doesn't have to be altered in a negative way. We want to make sure every student, if there's a seat somewhere, every student across the valley has a chance to go into a lottery and be able to take an accessible seat. So we're going to continue working on that bill to make sure that all of our students have that ability. And then finally, Senate Bill 400 is a bill that originally only focused on improving the support system for students with disabilities who transfer between states or districts. There was an amendment added to that bill around music and art teachers in the Clark County School District. So we mandate that the Clark County School District have music and art educators, endorsed educators, in every seat in the Clark County School District. So we've worked with Senator Don Darrow Loop on that bill to make sure that it doesn't create a negative impact on the system, and that we can continue moving forward and not negatively impact our schools or students in any way. So that's moving forward. Obviously, as we continue to monitor all the education-related legislation, we will ensure to keep the board updated on any significant changes and new developments. It's crucial we stay engaged with all of these bills, as they'll have a direct impact on our policies, our funding, and overall student experience. I will tell you, I've prided myself between Nate and I on making sure that we get the weekly report out every Friday. This will be one of those first occurrences that does not come out until later in the weekend or Monday at the latest, only because the report that we share out with the community provides the status of each bill, whether they're active or they've died in committee. So this will be the first time after the dust settles at 11:59 tomorrow. We will be able to see which bills have moved forward. We will update that tracker so that when people receive it, either late over the weekend or on Monday at the latest, you will see which bills are still alive in the legislature. Finally, yesterday, I had the pleasure of having Interim Superintendent Larson Mitchell up in Carson City for the legislature's subcommittee on education accountability. The team did a great job. We had presentations by Clark County School District, Carson City School District, and the Washoe County School District, presenting information about the district, our finances, and how SB 231 funds have impacted our recruitment efforts. So it was a long night, but a really good presentation by our Clark County School District team, and one that was well received by the committee. Finally, just before I close, I did want to take a moment, because I have the mic and I'm not going to miss a moment to have it. I wanted to thank Interim Superintendent Brenda Larson Mitchell for not only her years of service to this district, but certainly for her support and the belief that she has placed in me in this role. I cannot thank you enough for giving me this chance. I'm also excited to be given the opportunity to continue working closely with Superintendent Ebert as she transitions from the state into this new role. With that, I'm open to any questions the board may have. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Keating. Trustee Dominguez?
Thank you. And I really appreciate that sentiment with our interim superintendent, Brenda Larson-Mitchell. Brad, you are a really huge asset to CCSD being up there, and I'm so happy that she placed you in that position. I had a few questions, or kind of just a little bit of a statement. So AB 156, and I was right, I really appreciate the tracking list we have this time. So you said we are moving forward. Was there any changes to the amount or any amendments to this bill?
So I knew this would be a question, so I'm prepared. So thank you for that. So Assembly Bill 156 moved through committee. It has five pieces of the bill that's been amended, and I will go through them quickly for you.
Is the money for trustees?
So number one, it limits the compensation provided in the bill to elected trustees, while maintaining the existing compensation structure for appointed trustees. So that's number one. Number two is it adds new language to the bill. It authorizes county commissioners to make the compensation. So it basically makes the compensation of the school board trustee equal to that of a clerk or a county commissioner, excuse me. The whole state has the option to do this. We'd be required, but we would, the compensation has to be treated equally of that of a county commissioner. And those provisions on the pay would become effective January 1, 2026. They also added the provisions into this bill providing those voting rights for appointed Clark County School District trustees in conjunction with creating term limits for appointed trustees, making those provisions effective July 1, 2025. We'd have to start figuring those pieces out. It then added a piece of language requiring that CCSD determine the source of funds to provide compensation for our board of trustees that are elected after Nevada's 2026 general election. So obviously it's an unfunded mandate in the fact that we have to figure out how to pay for this as a school system. But what it does is when we're trying to find the funds to do this, it prohibits any cuts to CCSD educator, support staff, mental health staff, compensation in any way. It does provide CCSD the ability to raise money and solicit funds if we had an outside donor that wanted to pay for the salaries of this. And then the final piece was it just added language allowing local government entities to align the compensation of appointed trustees with that of the elected trustees. So the city of North Las Vegas, for instance, can decide and could potentially pay if they so decided the difference of the amount between the $7,500 and then whatever the top amount is for county commission. So those are the five changes that have currently been made in the bill that'll move forward to the floor of the assembly.
Thank you, Mr. Keaton. So what is CCSD's position on this?
This has been a NASB. NASB has been the one focused on this because it deals with the school board. In our conversations, we've just believed that this, whatever decisions have been made, are made across the board, should be made and equitable for every system in the state.
Thank you. And I know, just a caveat, little statement there. I know I think most of our colleagues would appreciate the pay. However, we don't want to take away the spirit of trustee, which is supposed to be a part-time position, and it's supposed to be something we're leaving the district to handle daily operations. And so, yeah, I think even though we would appreciate the pay, I think we don't want to take away from our students. I had my second question was, I think it was AB 533, and this was
Open enrollment.
Yes. So I know my time from AZAC, we have a lot of schools, and they are predominantly, well, we have, so middle schools seem to be fine, but the elementary schools and the high schools, especially in the Northwest and in the Southwest area,
It is over capacity, and then especially our elementary schools, there are elementary schools that are at a very low capacity. And so I'm kind of concerned about this. Has there been any amendments, or I don't know if we've been able to provide our assembly with data?
Thank you for the question, Brad Keating, for the record. We have. So we've worked closely on this bill with the stakeholders. Let me begin by just saying I am incredibly fortunate to work for a system where I get to work with incredibly smart people every single day. And on this bill, I've been incredibly fortunate to work closely with Gia Moore and Rick Baldwin, who are much smarter than I will ever be. But we've provided a number of pieces of data to the committee and to the assembly. So there are 16,000 students currently using our COSA process. It is a blind lottery system that's been incredibly successful over the last few years. The way that they originally defined the capacity was based upon the building inspector's maximum capacity minus the number of students and adults in the building. That doesn't fly, and that's not a good learning environment for any kiddo. So they've made some revisions to the way capacity is defined. We still don't agree with that definition, and we believe the definition should really be looking at the number of teachers at that school. If their if there's supposed to be 20 students in the classroom and there are only 15, then that's 5 seats that are open. So we are working with them to really refine what that capacity limit's going to be. And we certainly believe that every student should be able to go to whatever school they want. Now, we can't provide transportation, and it's a may inside the bill right now. It's not a requirement that we give transportation, but the only seats available are what we have, right? Where the capacity is open. Gia and her team and Rick do an amazing job at opening those seats for our community to be able to select and go into those. And we just want to be able to make sure that process is transparent so the community feels comfortable, that we're not hiding anything on them, that we are truly opening the seats that are available. That has been one question, and we're working to ensure that everybody knows that. And the one other thing I wanted to mention in that is the bill asks to do a lottery, which we already do. One of the areas that we have an issue with in the bill is the bill requires us prior to a student entering the lottery system that they have to have that we as a district have to review their behavior data, and that can keep a student out from moving schools or having the ability to go into the open enrollment. I want to be clear, and I know that you all as trustees stand in the same spot, is that we do not want to stop a student from being able to go where they want and being able to have the education that they want to receive. So we have made it very clear on the record that we believe whatever this lottery system is that moves forward, it needs to continue to be a blind lottery system so that every student, regardless of their background, their race, their socioeconomic status, anything, that they have the same opportunity for success as the next student. So that's the two areas that we're kind of going back and forth on them.
Thank you. Thank you, Trustee Dominguez. Trustee Cavazos?
Thank you, Madam Vice President. And thank you, Dr. Keating, for this legislative tracking. We really appreciate it. And especially thank you for elaborating on 533. Saved me a lot of trouble. I was going to ask some questions about that. I wondered if you could, I don't think you went over this one, but Trustee Esparza Stafford and myself, former Commissioner Chris Giunciliani, helped out with with Senator Orenshaw's SB 428. And this had to do with something that directly affected our school board in a very impactful way, and that had to do with people who are elected or appointed to a specific area or district continue to live in that district. So if you could give us a quick overview on SB 428, I would really appreciate it.
Yes, it is. I appreciate it, and that was a bill heard. I believe it was earlier this week. Now, if I remember correctly.
Yes.
Yeah, but that bill does. It's a bill by Senator Orenshaw, went through legislative operations, and really focuses on the residency requirements, and the bill and the language within the bill specifies as clear as could be that you actually continue to reside in the area prescribed by law for the office during the term of your oath. And then it goes down to revise, I believe, even the oath that you have to take, where you solemnly swear that you cannot, or that you must live in that area. So it's made it very, very clear, so that there are no questions moving forward.
Thank you, Dr. Kenyon. If I might add to that, thank you for bringing up that part that has to do with the oath of office. And what the co-presenter, Ms. June Kiliani, did is that she borrowed from the city of Las Vegas their oath of office that has to do with inserting that language having to do with the residency. And I think that since this board was impacted so greatly by the non-residency of a former trustee, that example was used. And also, too, that there were some excellent questions asked by members of the committee. I believe it was Senator Krasner, I'm not sure, having to do with how the notification would be done. So there was some possibility for some amendments being made there having to do with how that notification would be made. So thank you again. I'm just looking real quickly to see. Thank you for AB 472. And,
Trustee Cavazos, I just quickly want to add for SB 428, you mentioned that you and Trustee Ramona Esparza-Strafican worked on this. I just want to put it on the record that that was on your personal capacity, that you helped the sender with that bill.
yes, everything I do is on a personal capacity except for right here.
I just wanted to clarify it. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. I should have remembered that. Let me put a little disclaimer on my forehead here. Thank you, Vice President. But on 472, I did hear you say that that is something that that CCSD, NASB was the one having to do with AB 156. Is that correct?
Correct. That one on 156, and then 472 is the J1 visa bill.
Right. And we are in support of that, correct?
Yes. Yep.
Okay, so clarification, last thing, on the one having to do with AB 156. Did you say that NASB is the one that's taking over the position statement on that, and that CCSD is not taking a position on that? I see Todd looking at me.
I can allow Todd to answer, or I can
Okay,
take it.
all right.
I don't know. I can't see him.
Sure. I'm here. Madam Vice President, members of the board, Interim Superintendent
resting.
Larson Mitchell. Yes, AB 156, the Board of School Trustees Salary and Appointments Bill. We are certainly monitoring it, but NASB has taken the lead in working with the sponsors of that bill. We have stayed back as there are obviously differences about that bill, and we have remained neutral.
Okay, so Mr. Story, when we do have that, because again, questions here. So when we are saying that our NASB, for people who don't know, our Nevada Association, School Board Association, are we saying then that CCSD then is taking a neutral stance because we are letting a representative association basically carry the water? That's a constituent question.
Yes, thank you, Trustee Cavazos. It doesn't necessarily mean that they're mutually exclusive. Sometimes we work in tandem, sometimes they take the lead, but because of the question around this bill itself not being part of the platform, we have stayed out of this conversation.
All right, okay, thank you so much. That's all I have. As an individual.
No, right now you're a trustee. Thank you, Trustee Cavazos. As a rep for NASB, I will say that the Legislative Committee did take a vote to oppose this bill, AB 156, and if you all want to have further discussions, we can. But I will pass it over to Trustee Esparza-Strafican.
No, I don't think we need to have a discussion about it because it's already passed through and we just have to watch it. So I want to ask Dr. Keating about things fiscally, if you have any awareness. On Bill SB 81, I think it was removing unnecessary devices. Is there a cost to that? Was that ever a discussion with the district? Because I know we had a huge cost in doing the no signal pouches. So is that similar to what this is requesting? Do you know?
Brad Keating for the record. I always get excited to say this. So it is the non-locking, signal blocking cell phone pouches. So those, there is no, as it relates to this bill, there's no fiscal note because all it does is it requires a policy that each Board of School Trustees adopt as to how they would utilize, how they would ensure that cell phones and electronic devices are used appropriately at schools.
Thank you for that. And so my only second one is the follow-up, and I forgot the number, I'm sure. I don't know how you remember any of these, is the cameras on the bus. That was telling. So you said we were a pilot program. Can you expand if this were to be enacted? Like, what is going to be the revenue for funding additional cameras, or do you know that response?
Yes, Brad Keating for the record. So Assembly Bill 527, the school bus traffic violation. So if that bill moves forward, it is permissive. It allows districts the opportunity to do this or not. If you make the decision as the board that you wanted to go down this path and you wanted to install cameras on buses, then it does require you to install them on every bus. So it's permissive and you have a decision, but once you make the decision, it's going on all or no buses. At that point, you have the opportunity to either, you can hire an outside firm or an outside company that already does this and has everything set up, and the company, we're using a company as the pilot just to test and see how it was working. But you as a board will have the decision making to choose a company to use that can handle all of these things. So they'll look at the traffic violations, they'll help issue the reports with local law enforcement, they'll send the dollars out, and then the dollars that come back would continue to pay for the technology enhancements and making sure that everything's working in the system. And then any funds outside of the contracted amount with a vendor would be able to use would be available for use for technology programming for the police department of the school district. So it would be no cost to us in any way, shape, or form because the violations will take care of this. But we'd have the ability to probably make some money for our police department.
Madam Vice President, Todd Story, Chief Communications Officer for the record. As a follow-up to Dr. Keating's mention, the school district would be able to use those funds, but in very directed ways in support of additional student safety measures. So it's important to make that mention also, that all of our buses currently have cameras on them, real-time look-in view on every bus across the district. And then specifically to these cameras, they would be installed on the stop arm. They're only active when the arm is activated. And so just to make sure that those additional details were shared publicly.
Thank you, Mr. Story and Dr. Keating. I really, this is an issue of concern in all of our municipalities and throughout the district is student safety, especially on our roadways. I know we have partnerships with the police department, with our CCSPD, also helping to ensure that that is less and less an issue. So I'm just grateful to know that this is something potentially that could give more revenue to our police department in ensuring that safety can be expanded.
Thank you, Trustee Esparza-Straffigan. My actually is a follow-up for AB 527. So it was really shocking to see that number being 5,000, I think, offenders, right, with our 6 buses that we have in. Can we clarify? Brad mentioned that someone will be viewing these videos and clips before giving out citations. Who would give out those citations? Would it be CCSD PD or is that Metro?
Madam Vice President, go ahead, Brad.
No, go ahead, sorry.
was going to say, Madam Vice President, Trustees, Interim Superintendent Larson Mitchell, Todd Story for the record. It would be CCSD PD that would review those. They have to be certified by a law enforcement agency before they can be sent.
So would that look like something we would have to, appoint is not the word, that's the word that's in my head, hire, there you go, hire someone else to expand CCSD PD to be able to view if that's the decision the board does?
Yes, as a follow-up, Vice President, the police department would have to look at their current staffing levels should the board make the decision to authorize this. That funding could potentially be used then to offset that additional cost for officers needed to then expand this or to have this program installed across our bus fleet.
Thank you. Trustee Barron?
Yeah, thank you, Madam Vice President. Hey, Dr. Keating, good to hear from you. I know you're doing a fantastic job for us, and it's always good to. Yeah, I think I told him Dr. Keating. I didn't know he was a doctor. Oh yeah, he's a PhD. He's cool. I'm right, Dr. Keating?
You are. That's the nicest thing anybody's ever called me. I'll take it. But yes.
Hey, well, I you know, you earned that education. I like to I like to use those titles, and of course, you know, Todd Story is here. He's doing a fantastic job. A redirect question back to AB 533. I just had a quick question. Hey, you know, I do believe that people they like to enjoy. They look out for their children and they vote for their feet. I'm just wondering if the proposed legislation, if it has any sort of what if, you know, if you have a school that's already like very much close to capacity. I'm talking like 95% plus. If there's like a cap. Yeah, I mean, a school could start the school year at 95% capacity. I know of a Rancho High School, we were always, you know, right at just at or right at 3,000, and then within a couple of weeks or so, boom, we're at 3,300. And so I'm just wondering if anyone has thought about putting a cap in for the schools that seem to be the schools of choice that people are moving to. Has there been any thought to a cap?
Brad Keating for the record, there has been thought to a cap. That's one of the things we're talking about with the group that's brought this bill forward, just because we do, as you stated, enrollment changes every single day. So is there a date that we need to look at enrollment, period, and make that the decision so that we're not constantly changing, that there's not kiddos walking through our doors every single day or moving between school to school, because that's not good for children. I do want to mention, so what COSA does currently is they allow up to 105% of capacity of available seats. So
105?
Yep. So it is up to 105% of the capacity for available seats is how the COSA process currently works.
Oh, and maybe there's a question for our interim superintendent. Madam interim superintendent, so in terms of budgeting, so if I'm a school principal, and I'm sure trustee Ramona knows this one, if I'm a building principal and I have a certain budget, I'm all of a sudden, you know, let's say I'm projected to be at 95% capacity, but I'm such an engaging principal with a really cool staff that right away, you know, everyone votes with their feet and they show up at our school. I'm 105%. Does funding actually go with them? And then what happens if, you know, a certain percentage of these children are, you know, IEP children who have special needs? What happens then?
For the record, Brenda Larson Mitchell, so we do have count day in the fall where we adjust staffing and budgetary considerations, and also with our students with disabilities, we can adjust caseloads, and we do look at self-contained units and so forth. We don't like to make changes at the beginning of the year. Kids get really used to their teachers and so forth, but in some instances, we do need to make changes.
And of course, just the follow-up, Dr. Keating, I imagine that you are explaining this to our friends at the legislature, and we're covering those bases just in case this really does pass, right?
100%. I've had more conversations about this bill than I ever thought I would.
Thank you so very much for your service to the district.
Thank you.
Trustee Stevens?
Hey, Brad. Quick question, AB 420. How is that one looking? Because I was talking to somebody on CCSD police, and they were talking about what a hardship this could potentially be on them. And, from what I read, it doesn't appear that they're providing any funding for additional personnel to be able to do the extra reporting that they're requesting. And I was wondering what the status is on that so far, how we are approaching it as a district, our support, not support, and so on. I was also wondering real quick also, it could be potentially a hardship on teachers as well, because then they would have to get involved, potentially for what the requirements are on this. So like, are we seeing any unions trying to potentially kill this bill?
So thank you for the question, Brad Kidding for the record. So to begin, I want to thank David Ballantyne and Matt Caldwell at POA have done an incredible job on this bill, working closely with Assemblymember Cecilia Gonzalez. So this bill moved forward through committee on Tuesday. There were amendments to the bill. So the bill originally required certain school police officers who used or ordered the use of chemical agents, electronic stun guns against a pupil in certain settings, that they had to submit a report to the Board of Trustees. It could have also had a negative effect on if districts were hiring an outside company, not a school police, but an outside service to do that they were going to have to fill out reports. It also required that any person that had done any kind of restraint of a child, so student services student services division, when we're teaching some of our staff how to restrain a student if necessary, if any of that would have occurred, there would have needed to be a number of different reporting that would have been required. In the revision of this bill, there was a lot cut out of it. And it really just focuses now on the reporting aspect for a school police department. So they revised all of the requirements to really only force districts and school police departments to display the use of force data on the school district's website. So the data that we must display is for the prior academic year. We have to post it no later than the first day of the following academic year. But it is in line. It's the reporting data is in some of the information of maybe where the force was used, the type of force that was used, the number of occurrences of each thing. But what we have worked on, and POA has done a masterful job at doing, is the Metropolitan Police Department posts this information already on their website. So we were able to work and really streamline, and Assemblymember Gonzalez agreed to have our school district police department do the same thing that Metro's already doing. So it's nothing now above and beyond the same reporting that's required by Metro.
Thank you, Brad.
I don't see any other questions from the trustees. So thank you, Mr. Story. Thank you, Dr. Keating. This was not an action item. Oh, do you want to say something?
Just
Yes.
real quickly, if you don't mind, Madam President, Trustees, Interim Superintendent Brenda Larson-Mitchell, I just wanted to add for the public's benefit two things. One, that we did add the district's position to our legislative tracking list at the request of the trustees. So if we have taken a public position on a bill, it is now included in that tracking list. So at the urging of the trustees, that started last Friday with our newsletter. So you'll see the updated list once that comes out with the newsletter sometime this weekend or by Monday at the latest. So I just wanted to take a point of privilege and say thank you to the superintendent for her leadership and steady hand over the last year.
Thank you so much. Trustee Zamora?
Thank you, Madam President, and thank you, Todd, for bringing that up, because the biggest reason why I asked if we can do that was so we as trustees, when we're up there, trying to do our public comment or testimony of issues we are passionate about, we also take a moment to look through that document. So we're also not going against our district, if that's where our district is standing at the moment, because we are a team, right? We're going into this movement of being a unit. So please, I encourage all my colleagues to look over that tracker, see where the district stance is before, everyone advocate for what they are passionate about, but also be conscious about the positions we're in. Thank you.
Thank you so much. We're going to go ahead and move to item 3.03, and Interim Superintendent Dr. Larson Mitchell, if you could introduce your team.
Thank you, President. For the record, Brenda Larson Mitchell. We are here this evening to present fiscal year 2026 tentative budget. And presenting this evening is our Interim Chief Financial Officer, Diane Bartholomew, and Ms. Kelly Kowal-Paul, Chief Strategy Officer. Thank you.
Thank you. Please proceed.
Thank you very much. Good evening, trustees. Kelly Kowal-Paul, Chief Strategy Officer for the record. Thank you, Dr. Larson Mitchell. We are here this evening to present to you the district's fiscal year 2026 tentative budget. We've prepared this presentation to provide you with an overview of the budget as it is represented in the required state forms. Along with this presentation itself, you will find those state forms included as reference B, and the staff recommendation to approve the tentative budget accompanied by a summary of changes from the current budget cycle, which is fiscal year 25 amended final budget, included as reference A. Both reference A and B include detail for all reported funds, and I'll talk to you about the district's reported funds in a little bit. We'll focus on, in the presentation, our main district and school operating funds, which are the general fund, the special education fund, and the 3 weighted funds. We have made some significant changes to the way this budget has been presented in the past in response to the board's interest in the detail and context of staff recommendations. During my overview first of the budget development process, we will share with you how the tentative budget fits into the annual budget cycle. We'll share some requirements for the development and submission of the budget and provide an overview of the documents that you are approving. During Ms. Bartholomew's portion highlighting the tentative budget details, she will share with you an overview first of the projected resources, including revenue and other assets, then of the expenditures, which are also called in these documents applications or requirements. And again, those details will be expanded for our main operating funds. Generally, the development process consists of collaboration between the budget team and the leaders of the work for which the funds are utilized. The district operates on a July 1 to June 30th fiscal year annually. You've seen these slides before, these first 3 slides here. We're near the beginning of the district's budget development cycle. We're required to submit a tentative budget in mid-April. This budget is developed using layers of projections. Expenditures for our current fiscal year are not known, as the year is obviously still in progress. So projections are calculated. Student enrollment for next year is not known, so projections are calculated. State education funding and other sources of revenue are also not known. The legislative session is still in progress, so projections for next year's revenues are estimated. We also take into account the work that principals have done with school budgets for next year, as we have utilized these same projections to determine school allocations for next year as well. You can see on this slide that our work begins well in advance of the July 1 start of the fiscal year. The board will see this tentative budget for approval today, and then very shortly, we'll see the final budget in May. Both of these budgets rely heavily on projections. Once the fiscal year 2025, so our current closeout processes are complete, the district develops an amended final budget. By that time, we have actual expenditures and actual revenues for this year with which to develop the budget for next year, which will then be already in progress. Projected expenditures at that time will be able to be calculated based on audited actual expenditures from fiscal year 2025, and we can project revenues based on an actual average daily enrollment from the first quarter of the school year, which will have been completed by that time as well. But it is important to remember that even with the amended final budget, it is still projections, it is still a budget. The amended final budget is required to be submitted before January 1st, so by December 31st, to the Nevada Department of Taxation. And then, of course, after approval, the district will implement the budget. The board will review and approve expenditures and transfers through June 30th of next year. And then we will present the audited actual information for fiscal year 2026 the following November. So with those 3 slides, you can see how the annual budget development and accounting cycles overlap, and how each year's budget and actuals inform the development of future budget cycles. There are 4 primary requirements for the budget development from the Department of Taxation. First, that we prepare and document the budget information that is then documented on state budget forms. Those forms have to be approved by the board and then submitted to the Nevada Department of Taxation. For fiscal year 2026, the tentative budget is due on April 15th, the final budget on June 9th, and the amended final budget again on December 31st. In fulfilling this first requirement, the budget team prepares and documents projections for revenue and other resources, for projected expenditures, and then prepares additional required information such as listing of in-process contracts and projected lobbying costs for years that include a legislative session. In fulfilling the second requirement, the documentation of state forms, the Department of Taxation requires that we budget operations based on 2 fund types, and again, I'll walk through those in just a moment. It requires that an explanation and a plan for increase are required if a budgeted ending fund balance is less than 4% of the actual previous year's expenditures for the general fund. It requires that revenue and expenditure classifications are used, including the provided schedules and forms, and that those forms are included in a particular order and included are preceded by an index listing the page number and description of each page. As organizations in the public sector are accountable to outcomes other than profitability, they use fund accounting to reflect spending instead of profit. A fund is a self-balancing set of accounts that reflect all assets and liabilities necessary to disclose our financial position, typically separated either for legal compliance or by function. This slide here shows a listing of the funds that we report in the state forms. You'll see on the bottom left-hand side of this slide and on the remainder of slides throughout the presentation that we have included a reference to the schedule or the state form that the information corresponds to, along with the page number of the reference material. We've included these to allow you to cross-reference the forms themselves with the overview we're providing, and have attempted to align the order and the language and the figures all in the slides with the language on the state forms to ease that cross-referencing as well. All right, I'm going to go ahead and walk you through the state forms themselves if you want to pull those up. As you look to the state forms in reference B, you can find on most of the pages, the most pressing information is on the bottom left-hand side, the budget cycle, the fund, the document title. So what page am I looking at is on the bottom left-hand side of each page. On the table of contents, there's one change that we've made here, different to the way we have presented this information in past budgets. The bond fund, the governmental services tax, and the capital replacement fund used to be combined into one fund, but we have split those out to report them separately. The next most impactful piece of information to keep in mind as these are reviewed is that Schedule AA, beginning on page 4 of 130. That's 2 pages. That is the overview of the budget. Everything else that follows is detail that rolls up to that overview. So for example, when you get to Schedule BB for General Fund, beginning on page 6 of 130, this starts out by listing all of the resources available, projected to be available in the General Fund, followed by all of the uses of those funds that we project, all the way through page 16 of 130. The same thing follows for special education, resources followed by applications, bond, government services tax, and all the way through. There are some additional forms at the end that are a little bit different. We'll walk through those when we get to that point. Okay, so now armed with that information, that quick walkthrough of the forms, I would like to turn our attention over to Interim Chief Financial Officer Diane Bartholomew to share with you the fiscal year 26 tentative budget.
Good evening, trustees. Diane Bartholomew, interim CFO for the record. I will take you through the financial pieces of the budget in the remaining slides. As Ms. Coel-Paul mentioned earlier, you are seeing information for all the district's funds. This is the list of each fund with the FY 2026 budget amounts. The complete district budget is nearly $9.2 billion. All these funds are reflected in the state forms. However, what we are highlighting tonight are our major operating funds of general fund, special education fund, and the weighted funds noted in bold. The remaining slides will provide more detail. So here, the general fund at nearly $4 billion is the main operating account of the district and includes four main sources. State sources, which includes the state education fund and special education revenue. Local sources, which includes things like donations, local taxes, and interest income. Federal sources, which include federal impact aid, forest reserve monies, and Medicaid administration reimbursement, but it does not include federal grants. And lastly, other financing sources includes our medium-term bonding. You can see that by far the largest source of general operating revenue is state sources. In fact, over 80% of general resources come from state sources. The other funding sources account for the remaining 20% of general resources combined. Most of the state revenue is allocated through the pupil-centered funding plan. As you know, the pupil-centered funding plan replaced the Nevada plan in fiscal year 2022. PCFP legislation lays out both how the state allocates funds to districts and to some extent how districts in turn allocate those funds to schools. Oh, I am so sorry. I gotta, yeah. Apologies. All right, so the special education budget is projected at $726 million. This amount includes revenue directly from state sources. This fund is also supported by other funds with a transfer from general supported by the PCFP special education allocation. Also, the other funding includes a general fund transfer of an additional $188 million in order to provide all the resources, all the necessary funding to support students with disabilities. This slide represents the weighted funding provided through the PCFP. Weighted funding provides additional state funding to schools for specific student populations, including English learners, gifted and talented, and at risk. In entirety, these funds total approximately $468 million, which includes a small portion of support from the general fund. The opening fund balance is noted here is unspent funds from the prior year, basically the school carry forward in these funds. As the per pupil amounts from the PCFP are not yet allocated for the 2025-2027 biennium, these revenue amounts have little change from the prior year. Again, these state education funding resource projections are based on enrollment projections, last biennium funding, and current school year weighted fund eligibility. All right, we have gone through the resources or revenues of the budget. This slide is showing a summary of the fiscal year 2026 balanced budget of resources and expenditures being presented for the board's approval this evening. So now we'll transition to information on the expenditures of the budget. As we mentioned, the general fund is the main source for the operation of the district. This data, which includes the ending fund balance, illustrates how the significant majority of funding supports position costs, approximately 2/3. Within the special education fund, we also see that most of the expenditures are projected to support staff positions providing instruction, support, and transportation to students with disabilities in alignment with federal law.
These amounts do not include additional federal funding. Similar to the general and special education funds, a majority of weighted funds are also consumed by salary and benefits to support pupils identified in the weighted categories. One of the last elements of the state forms is the schedule of transfers. These are necessary to support funds that need additional funding. For example, the district receives special education, English learner, and GATE funding. However, transfers from general are still required to cover some costs in those areas. Okay, lastly, we have a slide on the requirements and measures of financial health. We have to present a balanced budget, and we have to make sure our unassigned ending fund balance meets the two separate requirements of Nevada law and district regulation. All these requirements are being met. We present this tentative budget for your approval, and at this time, we will respond to any questions.
Thank you. I really appreciate the changes of how you guys have presented the budget. It is so much easier to understand, so thank you. And I appreciate the visual for those of us that are visual learners, so thank you. Trustee Johnson.
Yeah, and you may have mentioned this, and so if I missed the, not while I was out, but I think maybe earlier, can you describe what happens if we have, so I think it was 80.8% of our funds is going to go towards salaries and benefits, and then, I know conversely, we also have a teacher shortage, so like all of that won't be expended because we don't have the staff to fill all of that. What happens to that fund? Like, what happens to those monies when all of that money doesn't get spent on salary, but we have it allocated to in that category?
Yes, Diane Bartholomew for the record. Trustee Johnson. So yes, there is an attrition factor, right? What we call attrition when we have vacancies, unfilled positions. So yes, we do, in some instances, use some of that attrition, right, and build it into our budget. So yes, it is part of our budget.
So what would happen if we, so I know Ms. Triana is like working really hard and she works harder every day. And then when we fill all those positions, do we have enough money to cover all of the, would we have enough money to cover all of the positions when we hire all of the teachers that we want?
Trustee Johnson, if I could expand on what Ms. Bartholomew shared, we budget for the use of attrition to a degree in central office positions, school budgeted positions. If there is a budgeted position that is not filled, the school retains those funds. They become carry forward. They're reflected in this budget as opening fund balance in the different fund areas. So we've got a significant portion of the opening fund balance in the general fund, which is carry forward. Most of that is vacant budgeted positions carried forward from year to year. The same holds true for the weighted fund, opening fund balance. It's mostly carry forward from schools.
Are they able to use that for whatever purpose they would like, or they have to keep it in a, so it's like protected, basically like a savings account? It's like you're unable to spend this, even if you know you're not going to be able to fill that position by a certain point in the year. So for example, we get to this point in the year and we're like, look, that 10th grade English teacher is not coming, and we're going to figure out what to do between now and then, or we just haven't spent that money. Can we reallocate it to figure out how to spend it between now and the end of the year?
Right. Correct. Diane Bartholomew, for the record. Correct, Trustee Johnson. So yes, that it does become part of the school's carry forward. It seems like you're kind of touching on SB 282, or I may be going off the wall with their, with the state allocating, and if they're over 5% of their carry forward, that it's going to go back to the state. So yes, schools do budget every dollar of their budget, including the carry forward, right, for FY26. So that was part of our task. So yes, they are budgeting those dollars.
That's helpful. Thank you.
Okay. Trustee Johnson, in addition to that, they can use the funds for anything that the funds are allowed to be used for, so they could adjust. Right. Number one, the only restrictions are on some of the uses of some of the weighted fund categories.
Yep. Okay. Thanks. I appreciate you indulging.
Thank you. Trustee Dominguez.
Thank you, Madam President. And I had a lot of my questions answered during the trustee briefing, so I really appreciate that. I know this is a huge question from constituents and the community, we get asked this a lot, is where is the cannabis tax funding? And I know we briefly spoke about that during our briefing. I know I've done a little bit of research on this, but I would love to put this on the record.
Yes, Diane Bartholomew for the record. Yes, Trustee Dominguez, good question. We're also asked the question very often when the cannabis money became a thing. So yes, those monies do go to the state, right? It's part of their pie, and then the state education fund is what comes to us. So yes, the marijuana money is part of the state funding, but it's not specifically directed to us. It does go to the state, and then the state reverts to us with the state education fund.
Thank you. So there's no set amount of what, they're not telling us, a line item that this is from this funding.
Correct.
Got it. And then my second question was about litigation. Where does litigation cost when we settle or the district pays out? What fund does that come from?
Correct. So Diane Bartholomew for the record. We do have a fund specifically for risk management, but claims does come from the general fund.
Got it. Thank you.
Trustee Esparza-Straffigan.
So I want to applaud our interim CFO and our strategy. I don't know your exact title. There it is, strategy guru, strategy. Because you were there with our interim superintendent last night in Carson presenting, and I watched all of the districts. It was fascinating to see that kind of transaction. But what I want to ask you is Guy Hobbs, who's the chair, started to talk about like the per pupil centered funding and how we have not met the ideal for our students. And so I know that my fellow trustees probably have like, what is this person, my fellow trustee, talking about? So I have an ask for our interim. I really believe we need some more training on the budget ourselves. And so however that works into a work session, I'm not trying to task you with more to do, but I think as we become more informed ourselves, we can better message to the community and have conversations and really making sure that we're advocating for the right things, not just during session, but on the off year as well. So that's just an ask. I mean, I went through the presentation. You answered my questions during briefing. It's very nice. The formatting is very, like as President Bustamante said, very easier to digest. I'm sorry, I'm getting a little tired. So I really have no questions other than I think we need training offline, not during a board meeting for more deeper discussions.
Thank you for that comment, Trustee Esparza-Straffigan. And I know I also asked the same question of the compliance monitor person that has been assigned to us and putting it in bite-sized pieces, so not all in one lump sum, but that it is a training for us throughout even our board governance training. So that is forthcoming. And yes, we have to be very knowledgeable as trustees since it's one of our highest responsibilities. So thank you. Any other questions from the group? I don't see none. I would entertain a motion then. Oh, well, nope, sorry. I have not done public comment. I didn't see any on our list. But just in case, is there any public comment on item 3.03? No. Okay. Then I will entertain a motion on item 3.3. Trustee Esparza-Straffigan.
Madam President, I would like to make a motion to accept 3.03 fiscal year 2026 tentative budget as presented.
Thank you. Trustee Johnson.
I'd like to second that motion.
Thank you. I have a first and a second. Please cast your votes. That passes 6-0. Next item is 3.04, and I'll turn it back over to you guys.
Thank you, Diane Bartholomew for the record. Trustees, we'll make this quick. So item 3.04 is a recommendation to transfer funds from debt service fund to bond fund for this current fiscal year 2025. This request is to account for an over budgeted transfer out of the bond fund, which resulted in a negative bond fund balance in the 2025 amended final budget. So obviously we can't have a negative fund balance in a fund. So this is correcting that. The negative balance was identified during the quarterly audit preparation protocols, so we're prepping for Eid Bailey to come in. This transfer will correct for the overage. We will also prevent this from happening in the future cycles by reporting the bond funds separately from the remainder of the capital projects funds, which you saw in tentative budget and that Ms. Caldwell-Paul laid out in her slide deck. So yeah, happy to answer any questions.
Thank you. Any questions from the trustees? Trustee Cavazos?
I don't have any questions. I just want to thank the team for, during our briefings, explaining that so easily for us to understand, for catching that, and also not only for correcting it, but also putting into place a protocol so hopefully it does not happen again. So at this time, I'd like to make a motion to approve item 3.04, transfer of fiscal year 2025 budget appropriations between funds.
Thank you. Trustee Dominguez?
Thank you. Mine was a little bit of a comment, and then I will second the motion. It was for the, so have we changed any programs or anything to catch things like this?
Correct. Diane Bartholomew for the record. So as Ms. Caldwell-Paul mentioned, we laid out those funds separately now, right? So you'll see that in this state form stack. So yes, that
my
is gonna
question
be
is
our
more
process.
towards programs systems, like I'm not sure what programs you use, but yeah, those kind of systems.
We did not make, Kelly Caldwell-Paul for the record, excuse me, we did not make any program changes. It was not a program error, it was a process error. So we've made the process error correction, are correcting for it with this transfer, made the correction in the process, actually in the tentative budget that we just reviewed.
Perfect, thank you. And I would like to second the motion.
Thank you. And before we do that, I'm going to take public comment. I didn't see any, but is there anybody that would like to provide public comment on 3.04? Okay, seeing none, then I have a first from Trustee Cavazos, a second from Trustee Dominguez to approve the 3.04. Please cast your votes. That motion passes 6-0. We will then go on to public comment. We have some members that signed up in advance. Dr. Beamel, Vicky Kreidel, then after that would be Ted Schwartz and Mr. Gomez.
I move the chair for you.
Thank you, Dr. Beamel. Please proceed.
Good evening, Tiffany Beamel for the record. I just wanted to post a question regarding attendance because, as you all know, I've talked about this a lot, and I'm still kind of confused on how this is all supposed to work. As schools are rated on attendance for their star ratings, what's the point of the 3-day rule for notes when a school is allowed to send home attendance reports from the beginning of the semester and ask a parent to send in notes excusing all of the unexcused absences from January? That seems quite ridiculous to me. Likewise, it seems silly to tell athletes that they cannot compete in sports when they are failing, but students are allowed to compete in extracurricular activities when they are failing. There should be equal playing fields for students in both realms. I guess because these activities aren't regulated by a real office like the NIAA, it doesn't matter as much. But it should, because failing is failing. For example, 3 of my students were able to compete in the robot competition 2 weeks ago, and they all have 0% in my class. That leads me to grade reform. I hope the new superintendent will truly look at school autonomy and grade reform and allow the schools to choose what is in the best interest of the students they serve. Grade reform is a broken system for the majority of students. When students do not complete the formative assignments because they are not worth enough points in the gradebook and bank on summative assessments only, they aren't proving they truly mastered anything more than learning how to game the system. Colleges do not work like that. Employers do not work like that. We need to prepare our students for the real world. Isn't that what the point of career and college readiness is? We are doing them a grave disservice by trying to teach them to run before they walk. Please consider fixing this broken system and either turning grades over to the schools to decide or making a system that makes sense, like 55-45 or 60-40. Formative assignments need to have a place at the table so students understand their importance. We also need to encourage more vertical alignment between feeder schools because that will go a long way with Tier 1 materials and ensuring student success. When I sit in my district-wide PLCs and teachers report the same problems district-wide with regard to apathy, work ethic, and literacy issues, we need to stand up and take note. Vertical alignment will go a long way to help solve this. Thank you. I also want to say good luck, Dr. Larson-Mitchell. Thank you.
Thank you. Ms. Crydell?
Good evening, Vicki Crydell for the record. In my entire career, I have taken hours and hours of professional development. Some of it was as part of a master's program, and many others from various different types of training. This year, I was required to do the LETTERS program. It's through the company Lexia, and it's a literacy training program. We did units 1 to 4 this year as part of a district push. I would call myself a veteran teacher of reading. I just finished my 3rd year as a reading strategist, and I've worked in the Reading Skills Center for the last 3 years. I've taught English language arts for decades. I've taken every training possible related to ELA, but to be honest, this LETTERS training was as difficult, if not more challenging, than some of my university-level classes that I've taken. And to expect your educators to do this on our own time, and for most of us, for no extra pay, is insane. Units 1 to 4 in LETTERS takes approximately 87 hours. For those who want to earn CUs for it, they only allow you to use 30 hours of it for CUs. Units 5 to 8 takes approximately 81 hours. This is split between reading material, watching videos, doing interactive activities, taking quizzes and tests. For all the online quizzes and tests, we must pass with at least 80%, and we get 2 chances to do so. When I tell you these assessments are not easy, is an understatement. For those doing the math, that's 168 hours of work we're required to do outside of our contract time. This is not even counting grading, planning lessons, all the other things that teachers have to do. The time and effort aren't the only objections we have to this. Anyone who's done professional development knows that if you don't use things you learn very quickly, you lose them. Because CCSD has mandated a scripted curriculum for ELA, we're not allowed to use any of the strategies we're learning in our classrooms or the assessments. This program also focuses heavily on theory at a time when we really need practical, easy-to-implement classroom strategies. For example, years ago, my admin sent me to do explicit phonics training. 3 days of training. I began using it immediately, and I still use it every single day in my classroom. LETTERS is becoming increasingly controversial across the United States. And people are saying that although educators know more about literacy development by the end of the training, it has not been proven to significantly raise reading achievement scores. There's several studies to prove this. We do need training, specifically training for the programs that we're asked to use every day. What we don't need is a time-consuming, difficult training with strategies we're not even.
Thank you. Mr. Gomez?
David Gomez, for the record, Nevada Peace Alliance president. I know some people don't know what CTR is. I know that some people don't know what Melchizedek means, but I hold a lot of different titles. And when I speak about God, it's because I really have that really close and personal relationship with him. But I was talking to Abraham Kameo, and he was telling me that, you know, there is still a lot of overspending happening in our district. And he always has something funny to say to me. He says, you know, remind them to let our people go. But I didn't come up here to talk about that in particular. I've been doing this for a very long time. I get tired. Sometimes I'm okay, other times I'm not. I have multiple sicknesses, but that's okay. I'm gonna take it with a smile and just keep on going. You know, being in a district helping employees like bus drivers fight against wrongful terminations or write-ups or things like that has been one of my greatest things that I've ever helped a lot of people with. And I have seen directors come and go, and they have their own ideas and their perceptions and their own hindsight of whatever they want to look at. But I never met a director like the one we have now, Amber Rideout. You know, she's easy to talk to, she's welcoming, and she always makes sure that she hears what you have to say. And I'm talking from a perspective of bus drivers. The bus drivers always say so many good things about her. And I've never heard so many bus drivers tell me so many wonderful things about one director. You know, there was a problem when there was something going on with a restroom. She took care of it. There was other problems with staff couldn't get something done. She took care of it. And I don't see that a lot. I always see a lot of bureaucratic red tape and we got to talk to this, or I got to go talk to Todd Story first, or let me go talk to Caitlin, or let me go talk to this person. It's always something going on. But she takes care of them. And it's hard to say and see, you know, all the things that I have seen in the past that you guys, she's employee of the month, of the year on the wall out there, you know, and that just proves to you that you have an awesome employee that really cares about her drivers. She has started from the bottom and now she's a director. And she really looks and sees where people come from and where they stand and where she has stand at one point. So when you do see her, it'll be nice if you say thank you to her because she is taking care of our drivers that take care of our kids. Thank you.
Thank you. Ted Schwartz, are you still in the audience? Ted, how about Leslie Quinn? Please proceed. Yes. Press the button again, it should turn. Oh, no? Oh, there it goes. There, oh. There.
Is
There
it good
you
now?
go. Yes.
Okay.
Thank you.
All right. My name is Leslie Quinn. I'm a constituent of Clark County, a mom, a wife, a grandma, and I love children and people. I'm here to say today that I urge all CCSD trustee board members to contact the Education Committee legislators, as there are several bills they have set forward that will cause more division amongst you. A few examples of these bills are AB 416, AB 464, and AB 465. The language in these bills can even make CCSD trustees and folks civilly liable for a claim against them, a penalty, and up to a Category E felony of up to 15 years in prison. I bring these to your attention as I have noticed a genuine effort in good faith to collaborate with each other. The community has noticed it as well and are relieved to see it. But these types of bills, if made into law, will make it easy for pupils and staff to make baseless claims of harassment if they don't agree with one trustee's views or another trustee's views. While these bills may differ in content, the verbiage, intent, and misappropriation of the First Amendment and weaponization of a legislative position is the same. So, if any of these bills were passed, they would be a huge step backwards in the camaraderie you all have been working to secure. I urge each of you to contact your legislators. These bills do no service to CCSD trustees, staff, parents, students, or the communities. And I want to give a shout out to trustees Lorena Biasote and Lydia Dominguez for fighting for your fellow CCSD trustees, staff, students, and parents to have a voice via your opposition of AB 416. Thank you.
Thank you so much. That ends our public comment. I'm actually going to now take a point of privilege. Today is our interim superintendent, Dr. Brenda Larson-Mitchell's last board meeting. And we as a team believe about giving people flowers before they pass on. And so this is a time of happiness. We promised that we would not make her speak, but we want to pour words of gratitude and thanksgiving, Brenda, for what you have done. For me personally, I just want to say that I remember last year when we were going through turmoil, and one of the things that you said really stuck with me is about we were going to go on this journey together, and we were going to be putting students first, and that's what we did. Despite everything that we encountered last year, and it was a lot, but you never wavered, and so I just want to personally say thank you for keeping true to your word and demonstrating by your actions that that's where we were anchored. And so I'd like to ask Trustee Dominguez to share.
Thank you, Madam President. That was a beautiful speech as well. Brenda Larson-Mitchell, I am astounded by your work, by your leadership. You stepped up during a critical time in the district, and you recentered the central staff. You recentered a lot of things going on in the district, a lot of gaping holes. And this last year was really rough on you and the district. And I appreciate your steadiness, your consistency, and also your attitude. Because without that, I mean, you have made such a tough position a lot easier on staff and everyone. And I know from the principals, teachers, and employees, everyone is very excited for the future, but I know we have to appreciate the past and the things you had to go through this, and you really pulled this district through. And so I want to say personally thank you from the bottom of my heart as a mom and as a trustee. I appreciate all the work you did for our district.
Thank you. Trustee Stevens?
Brenda. So being a new trustee, you don't always know exactly what you're walking into. I certainly did not. And our role is a difficult one at times because we're trying to represent our constituents. We're listening to community members, parents, educators, and just really trying to do that, but also come to you and say, hey, this is a concern. I've met a lot of folks in leadership in business, and a lot of times when they get to a level similar to yours, there tends to be a level of ego that makes them difficult to confront on those types of issues. Sometimes they lose a little bit of their humanity. And when you try to talk about people, sometimes those folks will maybe not take it so seriously, or maybe the ego comes first. I can say on the record that from the moment I met you, that was never the case. You are one of the most humble leaders. You are a servant leader. I actually, I look up to you a lot, in fact, for the work that you've done here, for how you've led this district at a very, very challenging time. The budget alone, the mandates that came down from the state was a lot of work. A restructuring of the board, going, there's 7 members, then there's 11 members, and there's all these things that, were new, and then you took over, and it's just been a lot. And I've watched you handle everything with grace. I've watched you handle it with such humility, to where you always put the kids first.
I respect you, I appreciate you, and I'm so proud to know you. Thank you for your leadership.
Thank you, Trustee Johnson.
It's going to be hard to follow all those eloquent words, and so I'll be probably the shortest. Just wanted to, one, express gratitude because servant leadership, strong leadership can be lonely. It can be challenging, and what I've seen is that you've accepted that leadership with just this level of grace and poise that is so admirable. And what I really appreciate is the level of accountability that you, like personal accountability, professional accountability that you've led into this role, and you've really showed everybody what it means to take on a challenge, have a positive attitude about what can be possible when we work together. And, you know, Emily just said it about the level of ego, right? Like, you lead, but you didn't have to tell everybody you were leading. And everybody wanted to follow because we saw what you saw. We saw your vision. We saw how committed you were. And from there, we knew that we all had a role to play, and it was to be beside you as you walk forward. So just thank you for being not just a person of faith, but just a leader of people who, you know, we want to be inspired, and you inspired us all every day. And even as you decided to step away, you inspired us with your level of grace and humility. As you said, I'm leading the space for another person to lead, and I'm going to make sure it's better for them as I step away from it. So I just appreciate the lessons you've taught us, and your legacy will be not just the many years you served here, but the hundreds of thousands of students who have a better life because you gave yours to making theirs better. So thank you.
Trustee Zamora.
Oh, Brenda, I am already getting teary-eyed. When I first joined the board, I remember just thinking of you of the institutional knowledge. It was always, oh, the deputy superintendent, the deputy superintendent. And I was like, oh, wow, she has a lot of knowledge here. But I want to thank you for your vulnerability because you were always honest of, I don't have the answer for this. And if you didn't have the answer, you always took the time to learn. And you were never shy about that. You would say it out in public. You would say it to us all the time. So I thank you for that. I thank you for the courage, that step of knowing what's best for the kids here. And that took a lot of sacrifice, and I see it, and it's seen. So thank you for that. And I'm really going to miss your energy because, Brenda, I would tell you, I don't know how you have so much energy sometimes in the morning. So thank you. And I wish you the very, very best. And I hope you do not forget us and still check on us. And, you know, hope we're all, I'm sure, a phone call away. And I hope you're a phone call away, too. Thank you.
Trustee Cavazos.
Thank you, Madam President. Well, I'm going to, as usual, take a different tack here. First of all, Brenda's had to put up with me a lot longer than she's had to put up with anybody else sitting on this dais. So, and right now I feel like we're going to have to write a letter. I'm looking at her face. We promised her we would not do this, okay? And so already we've gone back on our word here. But following the eloquence of my colleagues' words here, I want to reiterate everything that's been said. And one thing I do want to throw out there is not everybody answers you on weekends, in the evenings, in the early morning, and late at night when something is urgent. But she did. And Brenda and I have not always agreed on everything, but she is a really good example of you can disagree with someone, but you can have a civil conversation, and you can get the information that you need, and you can go on from there. So, Brenda, really appreciate you.
Trustee Henry.
Thank you so much. You know, I'm still waiting for the monster to appear that everyone told me that you were. Like, I have to bring the humor, right? But I do. I thank you. I thank you for your transparency. I thank you for always taking my calls. I thank you for just really being responsive, and especially when my community has concerns. And I'm like, okay, we're going to make sure that this is taken care of. And I reached out to you, and it was taken care of right away. And I appreciate you. I do want to read something really quickly, if I can get into my phone. Just really quickly, because April is Child Abuse Prevention Month, right, and awareness. And I know many people say, why do you have this pinwheel in your head? But the pinwheel is an uplifting reminder of childhood and the bright futures all children deserve. And it's also a time to recognize that we each play a part in promoting the social and emotional well-being of children and families in our communities. I thank you for embodying that. And anytime I had any concerns that parents brought to me, you were very responsive, and I appreciate you. I appreciate the time that we've gotten to know each other, and I thank you. Looking forward to what's next.
Thank you. Trustee Esparza-Stroff.
Dr. Brenda Larson-Mitchell, AKA Brenda. I want to go in a very personal way, Brenda, and I can't look at you. There was a time when the district wasn't so agreeable to females being high school principals. For whatever reason, I'm just going to say it for the record. It just was. But Dr. Larson-Mitchell interviewed me, and I wasn't selected for the first school that I interviewed for. But I'll never forget the phone call that she made, which was common professional courtesy to say I didn't get the job. But what she did say, and what I didn't know, she said, Ramona, there's a plan for you. And she said that you just have to trust the universe. And the universe came knocking because the school that I was given was one of the toughest in the district. And she believed in me, in my leadership. And so it's not about me, but Brenda, what I want to say to you is you opened doors for people when they were closed. And you were such an individual that has always advocated what's best for all kids, because we serve all kids in this district. So I want to read a quote, because you know how I'm an English teacher. Brene Brown, I'm going to change a little bit of, I hope she does not sue me for copyrights. I'm going to change a little bit of the language and say that our job is not to deny the story, but to defy the ending, to rise strong, recognize our story, and rumble with the truth until we get to a place where we think, yes, this is what happened. This is your truth, and you will choose how this story ends. So I say that to you because I never thought I was coming back. And I'm grateful to you for the things that you did for so many of us and our families and our students and our entire communities. So I say that your story's not ended. In some capacity, the universe, that there is a plan for you. So thank you, Brenda.
Trustee Satori.
Thank you. And I as well want to thank you so much for all that you've done for us and reiterate what my colleagues have said as well. And I remember many years ago, when I joined the district as well, knowing of you and seeing you and having such great respect for you, but I didn't really know you until this experience. And so it was just my honor to be able to really know you as a person and work with you more closely. And I just have so much respect for the way you do your job. It's been mentioned many times about the kids first mentality, and that gets said. So so many people say that, but don't truly live it. And to see someone that really lives that and really makes decisions based on kids is just inspiring. The other thing that has really I just think you're such an incredible role model. And one of the things that really stood out to me as well is how much you shoulder, and with a smile on your face. I mean, you are willing to handle things. I've never seen you passing the buck or blaming other people. You own it, you support your team. And like I said, it's just inspiring to watch. And thank you. And it's been wonderful being a part of it and working with you. Thanks.
Trustee Barron.
Thank you very much, Madam President. Dr. Larson Mitchell, personally, I just want to thank you for your patience with me, especially when I make, kind of extensive questions there. I admire you, and you are deeply admired, not just by myself, but by many other actual working educational professionals who realize your leadership. And I celebrate you, and I toast you on your 3 decades plus of dedication and your involvement, of course, in the educational profession. I know you're way too young to actually retire. I myself, I have no idea what that even means. So I hope and I wish you very well on your future endeavors. I have a feeling that there's still a lot of people out there who can benefit from your talents, your energy, your vision, your knowledge, and your caring. At the same time, I do hope that you take care of yourself in so doing, and you're able to spend as much quality time with your family as you possibly can. I bid you adieu.
Thank you, ladies and gentlemen. I just want to, Trustee Cavazos, that's okay.
I'm so sorry. I forgot something. I need Todd's story to back me up on this. Brenda, Todd and I were talking to you the other day about you possibly taking a vacation, and you said that you only go to Idaho. I have nothing against Idaho. Todd suggested Iowa. Sorry, Iowa. I got that wrong. I can see you mouthing it over there. But I forgot to mention that I know you're not really on social media, so I guess you'll have to send us personal pictures, but I believe Mr. Story was suggesting Hawaii. I threw out there Italy, Costa Rica or whatever. So I just want to say I wish you the best, but I'm going to be looking for some pictures, postcards, and snail mail, something. And we wish you the best on some kind of vacation because you dearly deserve it. Thank you.
Thank you. So Brenda, on behalf of the team, just thank you for the remarkable 31 years of service to the school district. And with that, we're going to give a standing ovation, please. And what we had committed to that we wouldn't, she said, do not make me speak, and so we honored that. But with that, I will go to item 5.01, upcoming meeting of the Board of Trustees on Thursday, April 24th, 2025 at 5 p.m. And then I will entertain a motion for adjournment. Trustee Esparza-Straffigan.
Madam President, I make a motion to adjourn the meeting.
Thank you. Do I have a second? Trustee Cavazos?
I will second that motion.
Okay, I have a first and a second. Please cast your votes. That motion passes 6-0, and the time is 8:20. Thank you.